The longer he fought, the more confused Menglai became. Even if an ordinary deified xenogeneic wasn't very smart, it would still know to retreat when it was losing a fight. It wouldn't just relentlessly continue to attack a more powerful opponent. But that Kirin wanted a fight to the death no matter what. It didn't care for its life, which made it surprisingly difficult to counter. But the thing that concerned Menglai the most was the idea that someone was orchestrating all this. If that mysterious person could control deified xenogeneics, Menglai didn't want to imagine how strong they might be. I have to take Han Sen back to the Extreme King, and I have to do it fast. Menglai made his mind up. A gold substance chain exploded in a blinding burst of light. It was like a golden god tearing through space. Cloud airs and deified blood sprayed everywhere. Because of the amount of raw power being exchanged, Han Sen couldn't get close to the fight. After 10 hours, Han Sen heard the sound of something screaming, then silence. He turned as the headless body of the Kirin slowly fell through the clouds. Then, Menglai was coming toward him. The man's hands were clutching the Kirin's severed head. Menglai was injured, too, though. His golden god body was bleeding profusely, and one of his wounds was deep enough to show bone. He was quite damaged. Han Sen felt it was a shame that he hadn't been able to get the last hit in on the Kirin, but he had managed to kill many King-class xenogeneics during that time. He was slowly filling up his King-class gene tallies. At least, Han Sen and Menglai kept traveling. Han Sen killed so many clouds beasts, but everywhere they went, even more of the crazed creatures showed up. Even Menglai, who was doing most of the killing, was getting tired hands. If I find out who is behind all this, I'm going to skin them alive, Menglai cursed in exhausted frustration. In the past, xenogeneics never came close to Menglai. They wouldn't dare to show themselves before him. Right now, though, even barons and viscounts were willing to attack him. He killed them, but it was infuriating that he even had to. They kept on fighting. The clouds looked like pools of blood in their wake. Menglai grabbed Han Sen and quickly outran the pursuing xenogeneics. He felt sick from the massive amount of killing he had done. He didn't want to kill anymore. After traveling 100,000 miles, they saw another deified xenogeneic coming for them. It appeared right in Menglai's path. Han Sen saw a huge, rainbow-colored bird that resembled a peacock. It was soaring through the clouds. Just the sensation of its presence would be enough to make most people cower in fear. The Tianxia Peacock King. Who the hell could control the Tianxia Peacock King? Menglai whispered, his face going pale. Is he strong? Han Sen asked. It is the fourth of Tianxia's 7 gods. The Tianxia unicorn is at last place on that roster. So, what do you think? Menglai looked sick. Clearly, he wasn't confident that he could defeat the Tianxia Peacock King in battle. Han Sen looked at the Tianxia Peacock King in shock. It fanned its beautiful feathers, raising them in a semicircle behind it. Images that looked like eyes stared out of the peacock's fanned feathers. All the colors of the rainbow glowed inside those eyes. They became rainbow godlights that suddenly drenched the entire sea of clouds in a rainbow godlight. The moment the rainbow godlight appeared, Han Sen watched the light fall to touch his body. And when it happened, his armor, skin, and hair started to look like dust. He was too stunned to move. Han Sen's jade skin was unable to block the rainbow godlight's power. Han Sen looked over at Menglai and saw that he, too, was melting into dust. With a teeth-rattling roar, Menglai became that gold giant again. He grabbed Han Sen so that the gold color could spread across his body as well. The color dyed Han Sen's entire form. When Han Sen looked closer, he could see that the layer of gold was made of intricate substance chains. But even that layer of protection started to degrade under the power of the rainbow godlight. Menglai's gold body clearly couldn't withstand the Tianxia Peacock King's rainbow godlight. You need to leave now. Menglai threw Han Sen away, then started running toward the Tianxia Peacock King. Han Sen used the momentum of Menglai's throw to escape the rainbow godlight's area of effect. The Tianxia Peacock King, meanwhile, was occupied by Menglai and therefore couldn't give chase. F***CK. Even the terrifying Tianxia Peacock King was drawn toward me. I can't keep this thing, Han Sen thought. He pulled the cloud out of Destiny's tower, tossed it to the side, and flew away. That thing had even managed to attract the Tianxia Peacock King. If Han Sen continued carrying it, it would only be a matter of time before he attracted the rest of the Tianxia gods. The Tianxia unicorn, at the end of the roster, was already so strong. The fourth-rank god, the Tianxia Peacock King, must have been exceptionally scary. Even Minglai didn't underestimate a foe like that. If an enemy of a higher level came, they'd be killed in no time at all. After Han Sen ditched the cloud, he turned back. He went in a different direction so he could escape Minglai. After flying for a while, Han Sen felt a weird prickling sensation across the back of his neck. He turned around and saw the cloud chasing him. OSH*T. Why are you following me? Han Sen's eyes almost popped out of his skull. The thing hadn't stayed where he put it. The cloud didn't answer Han's senator, it just flew over to him and floated nearby. It didn't seem to want to hurt him, though. I'm afraid of you. Han Sen thought it was best to stay away from the strange cloud. He accelerated away, using his phoenix techniques as he fled. While that creamy cloud looked very slow, it somehow managed to keep up with Han's senator. No matter how many times Han Sen changed direction, he couldn't shake it off. Han Sen tried to punch it and send it flying away, but that didn't work for crap. The more strength he put into the blow, the faster the cloud would follow him. And when his punch landed on the cloud, it would become really thick and withstand all the force. After a short while of running, he met another group of cloud beasts. They were drawn to the cloud following Han Sen. Fortunately, these cloud beasts were quite low level. They were most viscounts and earls. Han Sen got rid of them easily. If you bring me another deified, I will be very dead. There was nothing Han Sen could do to get rid of the cloud. He felt like crying, but then Han Sen thought about it. The cloud's area of effect was limited. If he didn't run, no more powerful cloud beast would show up. Thinking of that, Han Sen stopped running. He stopped right where he was and glared at the cloud. He said to it, I'm warning you. Don't follow me anymore. Otherwise, I will kill you. Han Sen was trying to scare the black cricket or spider plant on the inside, as it was obvious that one of those two was behind the drama. You really think I can't kill you? Han Sen demanded angrily when the cloud didn't react. He walked straight up to the occupants of the cloud. Han Sen approached the cloud, but it quickly retreated so that Han Sen couldn't touch it. Han Sen felt so angry. He sped up and chased after the cloud. As he chased it, it continued to retreat away from him. But whenever Han Sen turned around and tried to move away from the cloud, it would follow. After a short time of this, Han Sen became incredibly frustrated. I was wrong to take you. I was wrong. Can you please stop following me? Han Sen begged the cloud, tears in his eyes. Unfortunately for Han Sen, the cricket on the inside didn't understand the common tongue of the universe. When Han Sen walked away, it followed again. Now, Han Sen's situation had become a little awkward. He couldn't leave, and neither could he stay. It was easy to invite a god in, but it was hard to send a god away. Do you really think you can bully me this easily? Han Sen was getting angry. Instead of going on its merry way, the cloud was creeping along behind him like a stalker. Han Sen decided to summon Spell and use her 2 pistols. He fired rapidly, and each bullet hit the cloud at high speed. The cloud didn't dodge, and the bullets slammed into the cloud's surface. However, an instant later, the bullets were bouncing away instead of piercing through the cloud. Han Sen had expected this result. He hadn't actually been trying to break the cloud. You are too weak to fight against Big Brother Han. Han Sen laughed coldly. He used his pistols to shoot the cloud again. Many bullets again hit the cloud, but this time, the cloud seemed to lose its bounciness. When the bullets hit it, it sounded like they were hitting a stone surface. Han Sen's first attacks earlier had been infused with Spell's solidifying power. He solidified the cloud, depriving it of its elastic resilience. Although the cloud was now very hard, the bullets still couldn't hurt it. But where the bullets struck, turtle symbols now appeared. It was Han Sen's turtle skill. After Han Sen fired at it for a while more, the solidified cloud was completely checkered with the glowing symbols of a turtle. When he was finished doing that, he cast an icy light, turning the cloud into a block of ice. I don't believe you'll be able to follow me after that. Han Sen turned around and flew away. As he flew, he turned repeatedly to check on the frozen cloud. The cloud began to move despite being frozen, but Han Sen was relieved to see that it was now as slow as a snail. It would be impossible for it to keep up with Han Sen now. Han Sen was happy about this. He left it in the dust, no longer looking back. It wasn't going to catch up. I finally got rid of it. Han Sen changed direction a few times, and when it was assuredly gone, he let out a long sigh of relief. He was just going to keep flying, but he soon felt something come from up ahead. It seemed as if there were creatures doing battle ahead of him. The fight was happening very far away, and the shockwaves from the battle barely rocked the clouds around him. Han Sen hesitated. He finally decided to fly over and get a better look at the battleground. Before long, he could analyze the shockwaves much more clearly. This sonic power is so familiar. It's Baoqin. The other power being used is a fire element. Wait, isn't that the little red bird's power? Han Sen was as much surprised as he was happy. He accelerated toward the battle. The closer he got to the battleground, the crazier the shockwaves became. Before Han Sen saw the little red bird and Baoqin, he saw the white whale positioned in the clouds. It was chasing 2 king-class knights from the Extreme King. Han Sen was delighted. He headed straight for the white whale and the 2 Extreme King Knights. The 2 Extreme King Knights were fleeing in fear. When they suddenly saw Han Sen in front of them, they froze. That momentary pause was all it took for the white whale's mouth to open and suck them in like a black hole. Daddy! After Han Sen entered the white whale, Bauer jumped into Han Sen's chest. She excitedly said, "Daddy, I captured so many people in the ship." Han Sen looked to where Bauer was pointing, and he saw that the white whale's prison was stuffed with 12 kings and half-deifieds. They were all Extreme King Knights. Good job. Han Sen glanced over the other people on the ship. The pirates and Fong Qingyu were fine. Only Ningyu was looking a little messy. She was sitting in the corner with dirted clothing. She seemed to be terrified. When Bauer explained what had happened to her, Han Sen was momentarily stunned. That little green sword can kill a half-deified? There's obviously more to it than meets the eye. I wonder where it came from? It was an item dug up in Du God City. Could it have been a weapon left behind by the gods that did battle there? If it is a weapon of the gods, it could make Ningyu very rich. Han Sen looked at Ningyu, but was reminded of the state she was in. It made Han Sen think that scamming her might not be a very nice thing to do. But Han Sen remembered the story that Bauer had just told him. Although Ningyu's personality seemed overwhelmed and suppressed by the little green sword, it wasn't gone. On certain occasions, his real self could shine through. But the little green sword was too strong. Ningyu's will could only be activated under extreme duress for limited periods of time. Completely escaping the grasp of the little green sword seemed very difficult. Is the little red bird okay? Han Sen murmured to himself, looking worriedly at the burning sky. According to Bauer, the little red bird and Baoqin had been fighting for a few days without a winner being determined. Bauer lifted her lips and said, "Don't worry, Daddy. Little Red will be fine. If he wasn't so small, he could have already killed that guy."
Han Sen nodded.
He wanted to say something more, but his face changed. He glanced absent-mindedly out of the white whale, and among the numerous clouds, he saw a single creamy cloud heading toward them. It soon came before the white whale, and Han Sen instantly that it was his stalker cloud. Oh my God! How could it catch up with me? Han Sen saw that the ice and turtle symbols he'd placed on the cloud had now vanished. He didn't know how to get rid of the D***M thing. Bauer, call Little Red back. We have to go. Now. Han Sen's face looked dire. If the cloud was here now, then many more cloud beasts might be on their way. If a deified xenogeneic was drawn to them, they would be in big trouble. Bauer didn't know what was going on, but she did as Han Sen instructed. She used the white whale to fire a crystal light at the battleground. Not long after, Han Sen saw the little phoenix retreat. When it landed on the white whale, it returned to looking like the little red bird again. Where are you running to? Baoqin traveled through space. His body was blackened and bleeding in various places, and the harp he used was burned. Some of its strings had even been broken. It looked as if he hadn't gotten the better end of his battle with the little red bird. Han Sen let Bauer use the white whale's controls to escape. Baoqin had been fighting for so long, he must have lost a lot of his energy. Chasing after the white whale now wouldn't be an easy feat for him. The white whale traveled away at high speed, and the creamy cloud followed behind them in close pursuit. Bao Qin straggled along behind the cloud. They all traveled through the clouds quickly. Pang! They hadn't been flying for long when Han Sen saw a rainbow light. It immediately covered the sea of clouds all around. The Tianxia Peacock King, Han Sen breathed, seeing the majestic bird appear among the clouds. The Tianxia Peacock King wasn't doing so well. Most of its plumage had been torn off, and only a few feathers remained on the bird's tail. It was like a plucked chicken or a paper fan that had been mostly shredded. Wounds covered its body, and many of them looked severe. But no matter how badly injured it was, this creature was still a powerful deified foe. The peacock's eyes started to flash. It emitted a rainbow godlight substance chain, forming an area that shielded everything. Everything inside that area would be melted by the rainbow godlight. Anything inside the area would be reduced to dust, crumbling away in minutes. Han Sen and the others were better off inside the white whale. The hull of the white whale was very solid. When the rainbow godlight shone on it, slow trickles of dust began to slide off the ship's hull. The process was obnoxiously slow. The cloud and Bao Qin didn't fare as well. When the rainbow godlight shone on the cloud, it started to become dust. Bao Qin's armor couldn't withstand the godlight either. The armor's transformation into dust was very slow, but it was Bao Qin's self-armor. If it was injured beyond the point of recovery, his entire body would be permanently damaged. The Tianxia Peacock King's target was the cloud. Its eyes glowed with a godlight that seemed focused on the cloud. The cloud was scared, and it quickly flew forward. But instead of trying to escape the area, it just hid beneath the white whale. The Tianxia Peacock King's godlights fell on the white whale and almost pierced through the hull. OSH*T. Does that bad luck cloud hate me this much? Han Sen whined. He turned to Bauer. Go faster. Lose it. Bauer pushed the white whale's power to the max. The white whale released a whale-like call, and then it lurched forward as if it planned to leave no matter what got in its way. The cloud managed to close the distance, and again, it appeared beneath the white whale. The rainbow godlights fell on the cloud, and it melted quickly. Soon, the spider plant was revealed. The plant was very green, like flawless jade. The rainbow godlight shone on the spider plant, but the plant seemed immune to the godlight's power. Bao Qin was running in the opposite direction. He took refuge in some clouds, and when he looked back, he saw the spider plant. He screamed hoarsely, "Holy area grass! That is the holy area grass!" Without a second of thought, Bao Qin sent a swarm of substance chains toward the spider plant. The Tianxia Peacock King's target was the spider plant. When it saw that Bao Qin was trying to steal its prize, the rainbow godlight fired a laser at him. Bao Qin raised his harp to block the rainbow godlight, but the deified treasure was quickly annihilated by the peacock's powerful attack. Blurg. Dust rained from Bao Qin's body. He looked very upset about his loss, and his desire for the plant still showed plainly across his face. However, he was no longer willing to try and steal the spider plant. He ripped a hole in the fabric of space, teleported, and disappeared. After all, he wasn't comparable to someone like Ming Lai. Even with the Tianxia Peacock King being as injured as it was, he couldn't do battle with it. That would be a fight he stood no chance of winning, and he knew it. After Bao Qin escaped, the Tianxia Peacock King's gaze returned to the spider plant. It wanted to eat the spider plant, but before it could swoop down on the plant flew away under some invisible force. It was being pulled to another location. The Tianxia Peacock King looked in the direction the plant was being pulled. He saw a little girl standing atop the white whale. A little gold gourd was clutched in her hands, and it was that gourd which was sucking in the spider plant. When he saw this, Han Sen's heart stopped. He didn't even know when Bauer had gone outside to use her gourd on the spider plant. The Tianxia Peacock King squawked with anger. Its rainbow substance chains erupted like a volcano, and the sheer volume of its substance chains appeared to shroud the entirety of space. It looked furious. Even when Ming Lai had attacked the bird, it hadn't been this disgruntled. That rainbow godlight was everywhere. It was like a rainbow sky had descended over everything. After Bauer climbed back into the white whale, Han Sen sent the ship rocketing forward. But no matter how fast the white whale flew, it wasn't fast enough to outrun the Tianxia Peacock King's rainbow godlight. The scary rainbow godlight landed on the white whale, and the ship's shell began to disintegrate even faster. The white body of the machine suddenly looked like a plume of gray smoke while it flew. A lot of dust and ash crumbled away, like some sort of ugly comet. The white whale's shell was melted by the rainbow godlight, revealing the bones of its interior structure. "We're going to die. We're going to die. I beg you guys. Return whatever you stole," Ningyu cried, gripping Han Sen's leg. Han Sen's eyes kept shifting around. With the rate at which the white whale's hull was being eroded, he also knew things weren't going to last. But after seeing how Bao Qin's reaction to the spider plant, Han Sen realized that the spider plant must be very precious. He had never heard of the holy area grass before, but he didn't want to concede and give it up now. But the Tianxia Peacock King was still a frightening beast. The rainbow godlight it emitted seemed unstoppable. Han Sen and his companions weren't strong enough to withstand the might of such a creature. The pirates and the imprisoned Extreme King Knights watched all this with terrified eyes. They were all in shock. Their eyes darted all around the melting white whale. If the white whale was destroyed, not one of them would be able to escape all this. They would be turned into dust by the rainbow godlight. "Bauer, take the item back outside." Han Sen could think of no other way to deal with the Tianxia Peacock King. Although Bauer didn't want to, she wouldn't disobey Han Senator. She took the spider plant out of the gourd and gave it to Han Sen. "Tianxia Peacock King, take this item and let us live." Han Sen threw the spider plant out of the white whale, hurling it far away from them. The Tianxia Peacock King, upon seeing the spider plant, gleefully raced towards it. It was no longer interested in attacking the white whale. Han Sen probably should have thrown the spider plant further, but the Tianxia Peacock King was far quicker than he expected. It appeared next to the spider plant in an instant. It opened its mouth and swallowed the whole thing in one gulp. No one could stop the Tianxia Peacock King, and the spider plant vanished down the bird's throat in an instant. After the Tianxia Peacock King swallowed the spider plant, it moaned to the sky. The noise was so loud that it rocked the Tianxia system. Han Sen didn't speak the language of birds, but he could imagine how good that plant must have tasted for the bird to moan and groan in such pleasure. The bird moaned for a long time, but the noise was suddenly cut short by a loud burp. The Tianxia Peacock King had suddenly become so full. Han Sen was still trying to flee the area in the white whale, but before he could get too far away, he heard a strange noise. It made him turn to look at the Tianxia Peacock King. The bird kept burping and burping. It couldn't seem to stop, and it looked like it was suffering. The creature seemed to have eaten too much. The strangest thing was that its belly was swelling. It was like a slim lady had suddenly become 8 months pregnant. Han Sen was stunned, but as he stared, he had a sudden thought. With a shock, he said, "Is that black cricket doing something inside the peacock's belly?" The distraught Tianxia Peacock King flapped its wings wildly. It was blazing with rainbow light, and its power ripped haphazardly through the sky, tearing trenches in space wherever it went. Its efforts were futile, though. Its belly was still expanding. The Tianxia Peacock King kept crying. Han Sen and the others looked on in dumbfounded silence. Minutes later, the Tianxia Peacock King's belly was bloated like a balloon, and it was still expanding. Its skin was so stretched that it was becoming transparent. Everyone on the white whale began to wonder if the creature's belly was about to explode. Of course, the Tianxia Peacock King didn't disappoint them. Its belly ruptured, and the detonation was like thunder. There was a gaping hole where its belly had once been. A giant, creamy cloud emerged. It was the black cricket's fluffy white discharge. "It is that strong?" Han Sen was shocked. He hadn't realized that the creamy cloud possessed much power, and he certainly didn't think it was strong enough to erupt from the Tianxia Peacock King's belly. The peacock was a ridiculously powerful deified creature, and it had just been ripped open like a plastic bag. You have to watch what you eat. The Tianxia Peacock King is a prime example of what happens if you don't. It swallowed a tasty morsel whole without first inspecting the contents. Now its belly has blown up. I don't know if it will survive this. Han Sen's heart leaped. He stopped the white whale and looked at the Tianxia Peacock King. After the Tianxia Peacock King's belly broke, The creature's rainbow blood was running freely into the clouds. The beast hung in the air, crying hopelessly. It fluttered its wings, wanting to leave the area, but its rainbow godlights were growing dimmer and dimmer. They were becoming difficult to see at all. It wasn't going to be attacking anything anytime soon. The creamy cloud ignored the Tianxia Peacock King and flew back toward Han Sen. Here's a good opportunity. Take control of the white whale bower, Han Sen said happily. He grabbed the little red bird and ran out of the white whale. He headed toward the severely injured Tianxia Peacock King. Little Red, your time is now. Han Sen threw the little red bird at the peacock. The little red bird screamed sadly as its body turned into that of a fire phoenix. But it followed Han Sen's instructions and sent a stream of angry fire toward the poor Tianxia Peacock King. The flames covered the sky as its whirling inferno moved to incinerate the Tianxia Peacock King. Everything in sight took on a flickering, hellish appearance. The Tianxia Peacock King was already injured and on the brink of death. He was unable to withstand the little red bird's phoenix flames. The peacock cried as it burned, and it flapped its wings feebly. But sadly, it was simply too injured to move. It still had the injuries from its fight with Minglai, and now it had practically exploded. Its guts were falling out. One of its legs was a ruined mess. If the Tianxia Peacock King could find a safe place to rest, it would probably recover in 1,000 years or so. If it had a powerful treasure or two, it might heal even more quickly. But it was in no condition to fight a deified elite right now. As the Tianxia Peacock King burned and screamed, its feathers and flesh turned a deep red. It was like a burning bar of iron. But it was struggling and refusing to submit to the cold prospect of death. It wanted to escape the little red bird's phoenix fires, first and foremost. Sadly, it couldn't get away. The little red bird continued to chase it and send crackling flames over its body. Its life force had become so weak that the rainbow godlight could no longer be seen. The Tianxia Peacock King's life force was almost depleted, and its wings ceased to move. Its body was falling in a raging fire. Han Sen moved up behind the little red bird and shouted, "Let go of the peacock. Let me do it." Han Sen lifted his thunder god spike. He flew to the Tianxia Peacock King that had lost consciousness and took aim at its brain. With all his might, he tried to crush it. The thunder god spike struck the Tianxia Peacock King's skull hard, but the weapon couldn't penetrate it. Even so, silver lightning coursed down into the creature. The electrified Tianxia Peacock King lost consciousness and began to shake violently. Han Sen kept striking it. The peacock's body continued to shiver and shake. Han Sen had yet to hear the killing announcement, though. This kill has to be mine. Jade Emperor, Holy Buddha, Bodhisattva, you must give me a beast soul. Han Sen kept smacking the peacock's head as he prayed. The Peacock King wasn't moving, and Han Sen had yet to hear the announcement noise. He gritted his teeth and kept on smacking it. Xenogeneic deified hunted. Tianxia Peacock King. Xenogeneic gene found. Obtained Tianxia Peacock King beast soul. As Han Sen wondered if the kill had been claimed by the little red bird, he suddenly heard the announcement. In an instant, Han Sen felt as if he had been transported directly to heaven. The 180,000 pores across his skin felt so good, and he moaned in pleasure. Deified beast soul. I got a deified beast soul. Han Sen grinned like a madman. Turning away from the Tianxia Peacock King's body, he went looking for the Tianxia Peacock King's beast soul to see what type it was. A weapon? Please give me a weapon. Just a weapon will do. Han Sen's heart was screaming. Deified beast soul Tianxia Peacock King. Soul armor type, broken. Soul armor type? Holy H*T. That's better than a weapon. I'm rich. I'm rich. Han Sen was so happy that he almost jumped on the spot. It was deified soul armor, so it would have a deified level defense. It also had the power buffs that came along with a deified beast soul. Although it wasn't like a shape-shifting beast soul, having the deified body buffs would make his attacks as fierce as a deified being's. Now that he had this peacock's soul armor, Han Sen could challenge deified elites in battle. Wait, what does broken mean? Is it a broken beast soul? No, I've never heard of a broken beast soul before. When Han Sen saw the word broken at the end of its label, His happy feelings quickly evaporated. He summoned the Tianxia Peacock King's soul armor, and a gray garment appeared on his body. It was made entirely out of gray peacock feathers. Technically, it seemed less like soul armor and more like a soul robe. The robe of gray feathers fully enclosed Han Senator, and behind the gray feathers, there was an image of a peacock. It possessed the face of the Tianxia Peacock King. Its feathers were closed, and its tail wasn't fanned. Han Sen's heart jumped. A rainbow godlight was shining within the robe. It formed a silhouette of the peacock with its tail fully fanned. A scary power rose inside Han Sen's body, and it became a rainbow substance chain that buffed every corner of Han Sen's being. Feeling that scary power inside him, Han Sen felt as if he could destroy the entire universe in one punch. Weird. The soul robe of the Peacock King isn't broken. It is a perfectly functional set of armor, so why does it say that it is broken? Han Sen didn't understand. He believed that the power currently possessed by the robe was perfectly deified. Han Sen brought the Tianxia Peacock King's body back to the white whale, and Bauer quickly whipped out the little gourd and absorbed the cloud inside it. The damage done to the white whale was pretty severe. It could repair itself, but being damaged that badly meant it would take a while before it was completely fixed. The ship could hardly move at this point. There were many holes that went clean through the ship, and the entire structure seemed on the verge of falling apart. Han Sen, was that really the holy area grass? Might I see it? Fong Qingyu asked Han Sen, his eyes gleaming with hope. You know what the holy area grass is? Han Sen asked. Fong Qingyu nodded. I've heard of it, although I've never seen it before. Even in the Thousand Treasures Alliance, there are only a few tales and legends surrounding its existence. The details are scarce, and we don't even have any pictures of it. Does that mean the holy area grass is something very precious? Han Sen was so happy. It isn't just precious. Even powerful factions like the Thousand Treasures would like the holy area grass. If this is the real deal, this holy area grass could be exchanged for the ownership of multiple systems. What is the holy area grass used for? Han Sen asked with confusion. So far, Han Sen hadn't seen the holy area grass do anything other than attract xenogeneics. Even if eating it could make you deified, it still wouldn't have the same value as a few large systems. I only know a few legends about it, but I don't know if they are true. According to the records of the Thousand Treasures Alliance, eating the holy area grass can provide access to a mysterious xenogeneic space known as the holy area. There is no sickness or death in that place, and when you enter it, it can make you immortal, Fong Qingyu said after a moment of thought. Upon hearing that, Han Sen was rather disappointed. He knew that claim couldn't be true. If being immortal was so simple, then the sacred leader wouldn't have gone to such lengths in attempting to extend his own life. He wouldn't have spent so much effort trying to kill a god. Entering the holy area didn't sound legit to Han Senator. If eating the plant would let him enter some holy area, the black cricket would have been there already. Why would it still be here? Oh no, Bauer. Get that cloud of your gourd, Han Sen hastily told Bauer, thinking about the black cricket. The black cricket was still somewhere inside of that fluffy white cloud, and Han Sen didn't know if it had eaten all the holy area grass. So, Bauer released the cloud. Han Sen approached it and saw that the holy area grass was still there. He brushed the leaves of the holy area grass. He soon discovered that the root of the holy area grass had something ball-shaped on it. There was a tiny hole in the ball-shaped thing. The cricket must have made a house in there. The hole looked too small to admit Han Sen's fingers. He didn't know how to get the black cricket out of there without hurting the holy area grass. Brother Fong, do you think this is the holy area grass? Han Sen gave the holy area grass to Fong Qingyu. Fong Qingyu accepted it and examined it. After a while of observation, he said, there isn't much information available in the Thousand Treasures Alliance, but this does look the same as the illustrations that I've seen. I cannot be entirely sure, though. If it is the real holy area grass, you are going to have to find a way to hide it. The holy area grass is very attractive to many xenogeneics, and they will do anything to claim it. Han Sen's face looked glum. He didn't know if this was the holy area grass, but it had already attracted many xenogeneics. It had even attracted deified xenogeneics like the Tianxia Peacock King. Not even Destiny's Tower had contained its magnetic effect on xenogeneics. Daddy, I will help you keep it, Bauer said, her eyes closing in a slow blink. Sure. You take it for now, then. Han Sen knew Bauer liked the plant. Han Sen would never skimp on the resources that he provided to his daughter. Plus, he didn't know how to deal with the holy area grass for now, so there was no harm in allowing Bauer to hold on to it for the time being. Bauer was very happy about this. She put the holy area grass and cloud back inside her little gourd. Bauer, inside the holy area grass is a black cricket. Earlier, it broke the Tianxia Peacock King's belly. You need to be careful with that thing, Han Sen warned her. Crickets are my favorite. I should get another one to make the crickets fight, Bauer said happily. What I mean to say is that the black cricket eats the holy area grass. Don't let it eat all the holy area grass, Han Sen said with a wry smile. We need to let him eat it. We can't eat the grass. It is only useful to us if he eats it, Bauer said. You know what it is? Han Sen asked Bauer in shock. Bauer thought and then said, I don't know why, but I do know that if he finishes all the grass, it can take us to a fun place called the Holy Area. Bauer must have some sort of prophetic power, Han Sen thought. He knew Bauer wouldn't lie to him, but Bauer seemed to have the answers to the strangest questions. It was hard to imagine what sort of creature she was. Although the white whale was heavily damaged, they had earned a lot in their most recent adventure. Han Sen had captured the holy area grass and the black cricket. He had also gotten the Tianxia Peacock King's body and the soul robe beast's soul. All those items were priceless. He didn't know what sort of power Bauer's little gourd had. Ever since the holy area grass was sucked inside, though, no further cloud beasts came for them. The holy area grass was no longer connected to the outside world. Han Sen found a chance to quietly transport the Tianxia Peacock King's body back to the sanctuaries. Right now, Han Sen had no way of consuming the flesh of a deified xenogeniac. So, he had to just store it for the time being. Han Sen drove the white whale through the rest of the Tianxia system. For a few days, it was smooth sailing and nothing bad happened. They encountered a few king-class cloud beasts, which were swiftly killed by Han Sen. Whenever there was free time, Han Sen kept trying to push the story of Jin's self-cogwheel. The story of Jin's self-cogwheel was the same as the Blood Pulse Sutras. They were separate and not connected to the other universal cogwheels. However, unlike the Blood Pulse Sutra, it couldn't connect with other self-cogwheels either. This cogwheel was completely independent. It had no connection to anything else in the universe. It was different from the Dongxian Sutra. The Dongxian Sutra connected to every cogwheel in the universe. The story of Jin's couldn't operate with a single other cogwheel. According to most theories, the fewer connections a cogwheel had to others, the easier it was to push. After all, it took power to move every cogwheel, so the more cogwheels that needed to be moved, the more strength was required. But with Han Sen's power, he still couldn't push the self-cogwheel of the story of Jin's. It was as if the cogwheel was locked up, or maybe it wasn't supposed to be moved. Han Sen used his Dongxian area and noticed that the cogwheel wasn't big. The white cogwheel also had weird symbols engraved across it. Han Sen realized they were the same as those on Spell's forehead. They might have meant eternity. Despite countless attempts, Han Sen never succeeded in activating the story of Jin's cogwheel. But now, things were different. Han Sen had the Peacock King's soul robe. Through the buffs provided by the Peacock King's beast soul, his power could rival that of a deified. With deified power behind him, Han Sen believed he'd have what it took to finally put the self-cogwheel in motion. After a few days, Han Sen found the right time to do that. He locked himself in an isolated room and fired up the story of Jin's to get to work on his leveling up plan. He summoned his Peacock King beast soul, and the feathery soul robe appeared around Han's senator. The peacock symbol on the back of the robe began to glow. Han Sen's heart jumped. The rainbow peacock symbol suddenly became a Peacock King shadow. It floated behind Han Sen. Many rainbow godlight buffs flowed into Han Sen's body then. Rainbow-like colors shimmered through his aura, generating a substance chain. With that unlimited soul power, Han Sen cast the story of Jin's and used the rainbow godlight to push his self-cogwheel. Catcha! The rainbow godlight that could destroy planets was able to push the story of Jin's self-cogwheel, but the cogwheel only moved a tiny amount. It looked like an old door with rusty hinges. It was only slightly ajar. Han Sen was thrilled, though. He kept pushing the rainbow godlight power into the self-cogwheel. The soul robe allowed Han Sen to summon a mind-boggling amount of power, and yet, it seemed to be fighting an uphill battle as it struggled to push the self-cogwheel. Such much power, yet it can barely move the story of Jean's self-cogwheel. If I used my own power, I have no clue when I would be able to get it moving. Perhaps I would have to wait until all my other Geno arts were deified before I could push the story of Jeans to king. Han Sen was shocked. The self-cogwheel moved steadily, and after it completed one cycle, it started to move faster and faster. The spell symbol was getting brighter and brighter, too. In the end, Han Sen was able to release his power, and the self-cogwheel was able to spin on its own. The door to the Universal Core Hall was opened for him. Han Sen entered and discovered that he was actually someplace new. It was vastly different from the place he had expected to enter. Using different self-cogwheels to enter the core area spawns me in different places, and that means I can appear in 4 different locations. That is interesting. Han Sen didn't stay for long. He proceeded to exit the core area. The Tianxia system was too dangerous, so now wasn't the time for him to kick back and have a relaxed xenogeneic hunt. The journey, however, was surprisingly free from strife. They traveled through the Tianxia system for another 2 weeks. Along the way, they didn't encounter any other deified elites. Han Sen was able to deal with ordinary xenogeneics and kings easily. Little Captain, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Captain, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Han Sen and Bauer were playing old man. The pirates were watching. They kept shouting and clapping as they did. If people didn't know better, they would believe this was a television commercial. In that fun atmosphere, it looked as if they were having a simple competition. Han Sen appeared relaxed, but he suddenly became serious. Bauer, guess which card this is, Han Sen said with a smile. He was looking at Bauer's 2 cards. You guess. Bauer smiled and blinked at Han Sen. You're getting smart, little evil. Not even I can see what you're thinking about these days. Han Sen looked at the 2 cards but hesitated. He couldn't tell what the 2 cards in Bauer's hands were. He couldn't tell which was the ghost card and which was the card that he needed. If he picked the wrong card, and thus ended up with the ghost card, he would stand no chance. Han Sen looked at the nearby pirates. He wanted to see if he could read their faces to learn where the right card was, but he received no answer. Daddy, stop looking at them. They cannot see what card I have. You can't learn anything from their faces? Bauer smiled beatifically and said, This time, I'm going to win. Han Sen smiled. He reached his hand out to a card and said, I want this card. As Han Sen touched the card, Bauer's face changed. But it was only for a moment. Han Sen suddenly let go of that card and picked up the other. He flipped it over to reveal a 3 of hearts. It paired with Han Sen's 3 of spades. Why I lost? Bauer clutched her face, looking destroyed. She threw the ghost card down on the table. Ha! Ha! Your father is your father forever. Han Sen laughed and stroked her head. Do it again. I'm going to win, Bauer pleaded while gripping the cards. Han Sen coughed into his hand. I think I'm busy now. Let them play with you. Han Sen quickly stood up and shoved a pirate down to play with her. This little girl is getting too smart. I almost got fooled by her. I cannot play with her anymore because losing would be way too embarrassing, Han Sen thought, touching his nose. Bauer wasn't happy that she had finally found a chance to play with him, and she had still lost. She felt quite depressed because of this, and she took it out on the pirates. A short time later, the bodies of all the pirates were covered in stickers. Han Sen went back to his room and summoned spell. Ever since the story of Jeans had become king class, Han Sen had tried to figure out what the story of Jeans area did. The Blood Pulse Sutra self-cogwheel didn't connect with any universal cogwheels, but it could still push the self-cogwheels of other creatures. The self-cogwheel of the story of Jeans was completely independent, though. It just kept spinning in place, all alone. It didn't connect with anything. Aside from making Han Sen's body and Jeans stronger, he hadn't discovered what the story of Jeans area did. Spell had become king class when he pushed his self-cogwheel. Some of her abilities had gotten stronger, but otherwise, she had gained no new forms or powers. Aside from her body getting better, Spell was the same as when she was a duke. However, Han Sen had been surprised to discover a self-cogwheel in Spell's body. Spell was just his Geno armor, much like the Dongxian armor. They were just byproducts of Geno arts. They shouldn't possess their own self-cogwheels. But Spell was like a real creature, and she had her own self-cogwheel. That really surprised Han Sen. If he hadn't been investigating how to use the story of genes, he probably wouldn't have looked at Spell's body with the Dongxian aura. It might have been a long time before he discovered her self-cogwheel. Spell's self-cogwheel was the same as Han Sen's self-cogwheel. It was like a copied version. Han Sen was sure that it wasn't his own self-cogwheel, though, and that was because he was unable to control Spell's cogwheel. Han Sen's eyes suddenly widened. Does that mean the story of Jean's self-cogwheel is designed to push Spell's own cogwheel? Seeing Spell's self-cogwheel, Han Sen reached his hand out to touch her forehead. He activated the story of Jean's self-cogwheel. Catcha! Two identical self-cogwheels were able to connect. They fit together perfectly. As Han Sen's self-cogwheel started to move, Spell's self-cogwheel followed along with it. The two cogwheels accelerated together, becoming brighter and brighter with Spell. But because of the teeth of the cogwheels, the two cogwheels spun in opposite directions. One of them went clockwise, and the other went counterclockwise. As they spun faster and faster, Spell shone with ever-increasing intensity. Han Sen and Spell's power was moving like crazy. They both had the power of the story of genes. Han Sen soon detected that his power was different from Spell's power, but he couldn't discern exactly what made each one unique. Han Sen guessed that the difference in their powers had something to do with the way the self-cogwheels were spinning in opposite directions. As Han Sen tried to figure out what benefit the connection between the cogwheels provided, Spell's body suddenly began to change beneath his hand. This change was different from when she became the armor, the pistols, the sniper rifle, or the rocket launcher. Spell stepped toward Han Sen and connected with his body. Han Sen was shocked. This was a familiar feeling. It was the same feeling as when he combined with Little Angel. Of course, when Spell combined with Han Sen's body, his body changed too. His hair and his eyes changed to reflect Spell's colors. His body became softer. The strange symbols of Spell appeared across his forehead. This combination was different than when Spell became an armor set for Han Sen to wear. It was more like the combination process and result Han Sen had experienced with Little Angel, and Han Sen's body had no armor. After combining with Spell, Han Sen noticed he had two self-cogwheels for the story of genes. He could barely believe it. They were still active and spinning in opposite directions, but aside from affecting each other, they didn't connect with any other universal cogwheels. They weren't much different now than when they were apart. There were no area powers. But because they had combined, Han Sen's fitness had risen higher. While Han Sen was wondering about the power of the story of Jean's area, he suddenly felt a mysterious shockwave come from inside his Sea of Soul. Han Sen had felt this shockwave before, and now it was happening again. Han Sen peered into his Sea of Soul and saw the black crystal armor. A symbol had appeared on the helmet of the black crystal armor that looked exactly the same as the one on Han Sen's forehead. It was glowing with a gentle light. Han Sen felt that his connection with the black crystal armor had never been this close before. It was as if he could control it with his mind. But Han Sen swiftly realized that it was an illusion, more than anything. He could see the symbiotic connection between himself and the black crystal armor, but he still couldn't control it. But this change made Han Sen a very happy boy. Is the power of the story of genes meant to control the black crystal armor? The connection between me and the black crystal armor has certainly strengthened. If the story of genes levels up to a certain point, maybe I will be able to actually control the black crystal armor. Han Sen's mind returned to the moment when the black crystal armor's punch had annihilated that statue. He would definitely like to max out the story of genes to be able to don such armor. But that also made Han Sen a touch worried. The story of genes was invented by Sacred Leader and that strange woman. Its purpose was to kill gods. Why does the story of genes have a connection with the black crystal armor? Is the black crystal armor connected to Sacred Leader? The black crystal armor originates from the sanctuaries. If it is connected with the Sacred Leader, why did the Sacred Leader leave it behind in the sanctuaries? If the black crystal armor is an item the Sacred Leader created to slay a god, then did it fail? Is that why he just tossed it into the sanctuaries? He knew it was unlikely that the sacred leader would just throw the set of armor away like that. So, it was just a guess. No one knew the truth just yet. After learning what spell could be used for, Han Sen felt depressed. Until he opened the black crystal armor, spell's area wouldn't help him much. Combining with her only made his body stronger. There were no special abilities. No way. The story of genes must be independent. That woman never said that the story of genes required a set of armor. What is going on? Does the black crystal armor exist because it was the only way for the sacred leader to learn the story of genes? Is that why they are a match? That idea actually seemed possible. When he first tried to practice the story of genes, he failed repeatedly. It was through the help of the black crystal armor that he was able to properly start practicing with the story of genes. If Sacred Leader and that woman created the story of genes and noticed that it couldn't be practiced, Sacred Leader might have found a way to do so through the synthesis of that black crystal armor. In that case, Han Sen's experience with the story of genes might make sense. There was one thing that didn't make sense, though. If the black crystal armor was something that helped the story of genes, Sacred Leader must have carried it around with him like a treasure. Why would he leave it behind in the sanctuaries? And on top of that, why would he leave it in the first realm of the sanctuaries? Han Sen didn't understand, so he stopped thinking about it and released his connection with spell. Weird. When I combine with spell, why is the process so similar to what I do with Little Angel? Han Sen wanted to find Little Angel and try it again, but she wasn't here. So, that would have to wait. When Han Sen returned to the control deck, the pirates were standing in front of Bauer. They all looked depressed. They were dukes and kings, but their faces were covered with stickers. They looked hilarious. He saw that the eyes of the pirates were pleading for help. So, Han Sen put Bauer on his shoulder and said, "Okay, you should let them go back to work now. We should have a look at the Knights of the Extreme King." Han Sen walked a few steps when he suddenly heard a pirate shout, "Captain, look! Something is approaching us." Han Sen looked where the man was indicating, and he saw a giant battleship amidst the clouds. The battleship was almost as big as a planet. It wasn't rare to see a ship that big, but this was the Tianxia system. Most electronics failed to work in this place, so it was surprising to see something that large remain functional. As Han Sen mulled over this oddity, the battleship came near the white whale. The enormous white whale looked like a tiny fish next to this monolithic battleship. Han Sen's face changed. If there was a race in the universe that could drive a battleship into the Tianxia system, it would be the Scion. From an evolutionary standpoint, the Scion were probably somewhere in the top 20 high races in the universe. But due to their technological advancements, they were considered number 6 on such a scale. Even the technology of the Extreme King was lacking when compared to the Scion. When he saw the iron symbol representing the Scion on the front of the battleship, he could immediately tell that it was indeed a ship belonging to the Scion. Even without seeing the symbol, though, he still would have known. Only the Scion could fly a giant battleship into Tianxia system without impediments. Han Sen hesitated, contemplating flying his white whale elsewhere. The Scion battleship fired a beam of light, but luckily, it wasn't an attack on the white whale. The beam of light stopped in front of the ship, and it presented the image of a creature clad in armor. It was a hologram sent over a large distance. "My dear Han Senator, I am Prince Albert of the Scion. My king has ordered me to invite you as a privileged guest of the Scion." The armored creature finished with a bow toward Han Senator. He certainly appeared very elegant. "Thanks for the invite, but no thanks. I'm busy, and I can't spare the time to visit you," Han Sen said, from his position inside the white whale. Prince Albert heard this, but he went on to say, "Please do not fear, for we mean no harm. We only request that you bless our prince. If there is anything you need, please tell us. Perhaps then we can discuss a price for your service." "I'm afraid you've misunderstood. I can give you a blessing, but turning a normal creature into a deified elite is an impossible task," Han Sen said. Prince Albert laughed. "We know that. Don't worry, we aren't going to force you to do something impossible. Our king merely wants you to bless a few princes. An increase in talent is all we expect and require. There is nothing else." "I see, but I really am busy. I can't visit you now." Han Sen didn't believe anything Prince Albert was telling him. If that is really what you want, then we won't force you to come with us. If you are free at any point, however, please consider visiting the Scion. If you are able to bless a few of our princes, we would owe you much. Prince Albert continued to say, you are wanted by the Extreme King, so I'm afraid the road you traverse is not a safe one. I can make a path for you that will see you safely out of this place. After that, the giant battleship that looked like a planet turned around went forward. Han Sen hesitated, but he still guided the white whale after the huge ship. If Prince Albert planned to force him to go to the Scion, then Han Sen wouldn't have much choice in the matter regardless. So, he followed to see what they truly wanted. Surprisingly, the Scion really did just escort them out of the Tianxia system. Since the battleships of ordinary races couldn't enter the Tianxia system, the Scion had the large advantage of being able to do what the others could not. They knew that place far better than most people did. Plus, they had advanced technology. They could avoid many unnecessary troubles. In under a month, Han Sen exited the Tianxia system under the protection of the Scion battleship. My dear Han Sen, I hope one day you can come to see the Scion, Prince Albert said. After bidding farewell to Han Sen, the prince's battleship sped up and departed. He didn't attempt to fight Han Sen. The Scion are interesting. Han Sen watched the Scion battleship disappear into space, surprised by the unexpected politeness. Mr. Captain is awesome. Even Prince Albert is so polite to you. He is one of their deified elites, practically a god amongst the Scion. Mr. Captain is so famous. I feel so blessed that I can follow Mr. Captain and Little Captain. The pirates were brown-nosing like usual, but they really were in shock. Han Sen had killed an Extreme King prince and was thus wanted by the Extreme King. Despite that, he was being treated so courteously by others. His reputation seemed to defy reason. Han Sen knew that Prince Albert and the Scion only treated him that way because of his blessing abilities. Han Sen appreciated what they had done, though. If I have the chance to, I will go see the Scion. But it will be an expensive visit for them, Han Sen thought to himself. Han Sen didn't delay. He allowed Bauer to pilot the white whale through the systems of chaos. They put some distance between themselves and the Tianxia system, and their most dangerous time was behind them. Because the Scion had guided them out, Han Sen had left the Tianxia system far sooner than he expected. Everyone looking for him would surely think that he was still in the Tianxia system. No one blocked Han Sen's path, and he used the reprieve to travel safely through the systems of chaos. Traveling from Do God City to Sky Palace wasn't a lengthy journey. However, going straight to the xenogenic space of Sky Palace would have been too dangerous, and he would have been stopped easily. So, he had to take a very roundabout way. Clearly, that road hadn't been as uneventful as he had hoped. And the Tianxia system was widely believed to be much safer than the systems of chaos. The Extreme King had knights patrolling the systems of chaos, so reaching Sky Palace by traveling that way would be very difficult. When Han Sen entered the systems of chaos, he figured that the Extreme King wouldn't yet know that he had escaped the Tianxia system. Intending to take advantage of the information lag, Han Sen plotted a course that would take him deep through that realm. But after a short while of travel, someone was standing in space, blocking Han Sen's way. Bai Wuchang. Why is he here? If he is here, then that means soldiers of the Extreme King are here as well. Han Sen was shocked. Han Sen, come on out. Don't worry, it's only me here. I'm willing to fight you now, Bai Wuchang called out to the white whale, still hovering in space. After a moment of thought, Han Sen flew out of the white whale. When he was a little closer to Bai Wuchang, he asked the man, how did you know where to find me? He wasn't afraid of Bai Wuchang, and he thought that their meeting was strange. He didn't know how Bai Wuchang had managed to run into him here. It was way too much of a coincidence. I asked Teacher Ancient Abyss to calculate your path for me. He told me I could wait here for you. He was right. You are here, Bai Wuchang said. Upon hearing that, Han Sen was shocked. He couldn't believe someone had guessed he would show up in this place. And not only that, but they had sent someone to wait there for him. That was too scary. Han Sen mulled over how Teacher Ancient Abyss could so accurately calculate his proposed escape route. Telling Bai Wuchang where to wait for Han Sen might not have been all that difficult because Teacher Ancient Abyss was a smart person. Especially since Han Sen's journey hadn't been particularly leisurely, Pursuers had been hot on his heels the whole time. It made him alert. Enough of this. Come fight me. I'm going to win this time, Bai Wuchang said, as the power within him exploded. His entire body took on a golden glow. It was his Ghost King body. What a strong power. You leveled up to become half-deified? Han Sen looked at Bai Wuchang with shock. Bai Wuchang's leveling speed was too fast. Bai Wuchang coldly said, Extreme Mountains life and death practice. I'm not the old me anymore. I won't lose this time. I'm sorry if this sounds too straightforward, but even if you are half-deified, I think you'll end up quite disappointed if you expect to beat me with just your Ghost King body, Han Sen said while looking at Bai Wuchang. Bai Wuchang stared at Han Senator. He responded slowly, word by word. Come fight me. As I said, I'm not going to lose. Han Sen didn't say anything. He just drew his ghost teeth knife. He used Fong and slashed toward Bai Wuchang. In addition to the teeth power in his knife, he also used spells eternity solidifying powers. Bai Wuchang's Ghost King body could ignore all physical and energy attacks. It couldn't block the eternity solidifying power, though. Fong Qingyu brought out the Wanjie Rubik's Cube that Han Sen had given back to him. He began filming the fight between Han Sen and Bai Wuchang. It was merely a recording, though. He wasn't streaming it right now. Fong Qingyu knew he couldn't risk exposing their location. If he did, the Extreme King would come, and they would all end up very dead. Bai Wuchang frowned upon seeing Han Sen slash. He reached out an empty hand and pulled a long blue knife out of nothing. He swung it to collide with Han Sen's ghost teeth knife. Han Sen saw the rival knife coming to hit Ghost Teeth knife, and his eyes narrowed suddenly. Instead of continuing his strike, he spun his Ghost Teeth knife to shield his left side. Fong Qingyu and the pirates stared with wide eyes. They thought that Han Sen must have gone insane. Han Sen had chosen not to block Bai Wuchang's knife. Han Sen had no guard, and he just used his knife to protect the left side of his neck. No matter how they saw it, Han Sen looked crazy. Blocking like that was bound to get him killed. Dong! But the next second, they heard the sharp sound of metal knives colliding with one another. Bai Wuchang had seen Han Sen slashing forward, but then the knife had appeared next to Han Sen's neck just in time to block Bai Wuchang's real strike. If Han Sen's ghost teeth knife had been any slower, the attack would have come down on Han Sen's neck. Fong Qingyu and the others were shocked, and their mouths were wide open in awe. They didn't understand what they were seeing. After that knife strike, Bai Wuchang used his other knife skills. His long knife was so weird, and it was pointless to follow the trail of the knife. Every time a strike was unleashed, it would appear in a different place. It was like the knife could teleport through space. Fong Qingyu wasn't fast enough to follow what was going on. He had to film it all, for now, so they could slow it down later. But he still didn't understand what Bai Wuchang's knife skills were. His knife could appear out of space anywhere. There was no sign of it coming, which made it scarier than a ghost. It was like the Reaper's scythe. It harvested lives before its prey even knew it was coming. Fong Qingyu slowed down the video, then he slowed it down again, and again and again. But still, he couldn't determine how Bai Wuchang was using his long knife. The more shocking thing, though, was that Han Sen was able to block all of Bai Wuchang's attacks. Wherever Bai Wuchang's knife appeared, Han Sen's ghost teeth knife could show up in the same place to counter the blow. If Bai Wuchang's knife skills were an unpredictable ghost, then Han Sen's knife skills were those of a god that knew everything. Bai Wuchang's body kept appearing and disappearing. He was a raging storm against the wave-breaking Han Senator. His knife flashed everywhere, defying logic and reason. Han Sen was hovering in space. He used his ghost teeth knife to block left and right. He moved smoothly, somehow perfectly anticipating and intercepting his enemy's non-knife. He was like a god that knew everything. Those weird knife skills didn't rattle him at all. Mr. Captain is too strong. If that was me, my head would have been off a long time ago. I wouldn't even have known how I died. Mr. Captain is like some omniscient god. How does he predict where that knife will show up? He looks like a prophet out there. He is too strong. This Extreme King Prince Bai Wuchang, who is oh so professional and talented, is lame when compared to Han Senator. He cannot fight the big captain. Long live Mr. Captain, and let us wish little captain a long life, too. Long life. Long life. The pirate, Seeing Bauer stare at him immediately added her praise. Through all of this, though, Bai Wuchang was demonstrating a truly shocking amount of improvement. When he was in Extreme Mountain, risking his life, he had pushed his Ghost King body to the max. He had broken through under his own power and learned the real Ghost Knife skills. Those Ghost Knife skills could go through the underworld as easily as they did the real world. People couldn't predict when and where the knife would land, but Han Sen could see through the dimensions. No matter where the knife came from, he'd be there to block it. Bai Wuchang pushed his ghost teeth knife to the max. He still couldn't hurt Han Sen. Bai Wuchang suddenly pulled his knife back and withdrew. Still looking at Han Sen, he said, "You're very strong. You're much stronger than I expected. You aren't bad either. You're getting good," Han Sen replied levelly. Normal people couldn't see the ghost knife that popped up through the fabric of space, but Han Sen's Dongxian area could see through all the cogwheel changes that transpired in an area. When the ghost knife came out of the nothingness, it would trigger the universal cogwheel that was connected to it. That meant Han Sen was being given a warning each time. So, Bai Wuchang's ghost knife skill didn't work against him. If Han Sen used his Dongxian area to lock the universal cogwheels in their vicinity, Bai Wuchang's knife would never reappear from space. Han Sen was curious about Bai Wuchang's ghost knife skill, and that was why he had yet to attack. He let Bai Wuchang keep casting his ghost knife skill against him, so he could observe. Now I can use this skill without worry. Bai Wuchang acted as if he hadn't heard Han Senator. He looked down at his knife. "Which skill?" Han Sen asked. "The skill I learned from the Extreme Mountain Peak. It is the one that can determine life or death," Bai Wuchang said slowly. His eyes looked like they were on fire. A weird power rose in him and his knife. "The fact that you studied on Extreme Mountain is none of my business," Han Sen thought. "If you want a risky fight, there are xenogenics everywhere. Why pick on me? I killed that worthless Bai Yi, and now the Extreme King want me dead. But if I had killed this much-loved boy Bai Wuchang, King Bai would likely come after me himself. Why am I considered the one who started all this?" But Bai Wuchang wasn't going to give him the chance to stop fighting. The prince was raging more and more. The ghost-like body became solid, but something about it still seemed incorporeal. Looking at it was like looking at an illusion. Han Sen frowned. Bai Wuchang's blue knife darkened to black. It felt as if some black substance chains were writhing just under the surface. What kind of knife skills are these? They're going to produce substance chains just like the black tiger I met previously. Although the substance chains haven't fully formed yet, if he can manage to do this, Bai Wuchang has a 90% chance of becoming deified, Han Sen thought as he observed Bai Wuchang. Bai Wuchang's eyes were on fire. His gaze was invasive as it crept over Han Sr. The road up Extreme Mountain is arduous. There is a 90% chance of dying, and there is only a 10% chance of surviving. The Gambit's rewards, however, are very big. I earned Extreme Mountain's prestigious skill called Big Universe Extreme Dead God Light. One hit can destroy everything, so you better watch it. Can I not, please? Han Sen asked, looking frustrated. No, when Bai Wuchang answered, he was already attacking. The black knife's light came at Han Senator. There was no stopping it. It was like the knife had never even moved. The moment the knife light appeared was the moment it was inside Han Sen's body. It is the same as the Blood Pulse Sutra self-cogwheel. It is a power that can affect the self-cogwheels of other creatures. Han Sen was shocked. Because it was used directly on his self-cogwheel, the strike was almost impossible to dodge. It was a devastating attack, but it was different from the Blood Pulse Sutra. The Blood Pulse Sutra pushed the self-cogwheels of others. Bai Wuchang's knife light destroyed the self-cogwheels of others. If the self-cogwheel was broken, that meant the person would be almost dead, and their life force would be gone. Dodging that blow wouldn't be difficult if he was farther away from Bai Wuchang. As the distance between them increased, the effect on Han Sen's self-cogwheel would be weakened. That meant the strike would be weaker. But Han Sen hadn't known Bai Wuchang could unleash a strike such as this. He was too close to Bai Wuchang. It was too late to dodge now, so he had no choice but to accept that hit. A power inside Han Sen's body moved. A self-cogwheel was spinning. That cogwheel was flashing with a weird symbol. It was the story of Jin's self-cogwheel. Bai Wuchang's black knife light went into him and struck his self-cogwheel, but it was unable to move Han Sen's self-cogwheel. The black knife hit the self-cogwheel and broke. It shattered into chunks of a black substance, then dissolved. "It looks like your skill is nothing substantial," Han Sen said to Bai Wuchang, who looked frozen. "No. Impossible." Bai Wuchang stared at Han Sen in disbelief. Han Sen was at the perfect distance for him to use his big universe extreme dead god light. At this distance, Bai Wuchang believed that he could eliminate any being in the universe that was beneath the deified level. Even killing a half-deified would die as easy as chopping the head off a chicken. Both would die in one hit. But Han Sen had been hit by the strongest unleashing of his big universe extreme dead god light, and nothing had happened. Bai Wuchang could scarcely believe it. Although Bai Wuchang couldn't see self-cogwheels, he knew that the big universe extreme dead god light was a very mysterious and scary power. It ignored all types of defenses to kill the life force directly. Han Sen simply wasn't affected by the big universe extreme dead god light. As Bai Wuchang stared at Han Sen's motionless form, he stopped swinging. He just gripped his knife, unsure of what to do. "Do you want to keep going?" Han Sen asked, looking at Bai Wuchang. "I lose, but next time." Before Bai Wuchang could finish, Han Sen interrupted violently. "Next time. My F *King ***. Han Sen jumped forward. He leaped in front of Bai Wuchang and punched him square in the face. A scary power caved in Bai Wuchang's entire skull. Blood squelched from the mashed-in face and around Han Sen's fist. Bai Wuchang was sent flying. Han Sen followed after the soaring victim. His fists and legs were like a storm, raining down blows on Bai Wuchang. Han Sen was enraged, and there was no stopping him now. Bai Wuchang's flesh tore and his bones shattered under the assault. He couldn't even fight back as Han Sen beat his body to a pulp. "You're a crazy madman. You think you're so strong, don't you? You think you can do anything you want just because you're King Bai's son?" Han Sen kept speaking as he punched. His fists kept landing on Bai Wuchang's face, utterly annihilating his skull. The man's eyeballs were squashed, and his nose was reversed into what was left of his face. Han Sen was still so angry. He kept punching like mad, breaking all of the other man's bones. Bai Wuchang screamed until he could scream no longer. Fang Qingyu and the pirates were all frozen. That was King Bai's favorite son. Han Sen had killed Bai Yi, which led to a universal APB being put on him. If he killed Bai Wuchang, King Bai would come after him personally. Bai Wuchang's ghost king body, his ghost knife skills, and his big universe extreme dead god light were so strong. But he was too focused on power. His techniques, his strength, and his timing with areas were shoddy. He was able to destroy enemies that couldn't defeat his powers. But if he met someone as strong as him, he would end up getting crushed. Han Sen grabbed Bai Wuchang and lifted him like a sack of wet mud. He carried the man back to the White Whale. Han Sen tossed him down, and blood sprayed everywhere when the extreme king prince hit the floor in a boneless heap. Fang Qingyu and the pirates stared at Bai Wuchang on the floor. He didn't look human anymore. If not for his ghost king body, he would have been killed. All of the pirates were thinking he could have offended anyone but this guy. "I can't believe he even beat up King Bai's favorite son so badly. There's no one he wouldn't dare to punch. Lock him up. Take him as a hostage. If the extreme king people still dare come for us, I will cut his head off." Han Sen's face was as hard as granite. Rage still boiled through Han Senator. He had met many fighting maniacs in his time, like Lone Bamboo. But even Lone Bamboo had his limits. This Bai Wuchang, however, was all about killing. He didn't have a reason, and he didn't need one. It was all about killing for him. Fortunately, Han Sen's self-cogwheel was as hard as it was, and he had the eternity-solidifying powers. The self-cogwheels of ordinary creatures would have been destroyed by Bai Wuchang's strike. If a person's self-cogwheel broke, then they were essentially dead. The state they were left in was worse than being a vegetable. Ice Blue Night King was feeling very conflicted. He never thought that bringing Han Sen to the Extreme King would be the catalyst for so much trouble. If Ice Blue Night King had a chance to do things over, he'd never have taken Han Sen away from Narrow Moon. If he could go back, he wouldn't force Han Sen to join the Extreme King. In fact, even if Han Sen had begged Ice Blue Night King and called him grandfather, he still wouldn't take Han Sen with him. He would slap Han Sen until he fell upon the ground, then order him to remain in Narrow Moon. Han Sen could stay there and bring harm to the rebate, Ice Blue Night King believed. Wherever Han Sen went, he brought trouble and turmoil with him. But it was a shame there were no do-overs in the world. So, now, Ice Blue Night King had a massive headache pounding against his temples. What happened to my brain back then when I forced him out of there? Ice Blue Night King just wanted to slap himself in the face. Han Sen had killed a prince. He had disguised himself as a prince. He had taken treasures and power from the Extreme King. Everything Han Sen said and did made Ice Blue Night King feel as if he was plummeting into an abyss. He knew it was game over for him. He was the one that brought Han Sen to the Extreme King, and he knew it was only a matter of time before he got dragged into this affair. Even if his participation wasn't considered a crime, he was afraid that his career would never progress any further. But that wasn't the worst thing he feared. He had just received another piece of news from the Extreme King. Han Sen had broken through all the choke points that the Extreme had set up for him, traveled the length and breadth of the Tianxia system, and reached the systems of chaos. Ice Blue Night King had no idea how Han Sen had accomplished this. He was being chased by the whole universe, but he had managed to make it to the systems of chaos. That made Ice Blue Night King confused. Right now, Ice Blue Night King had received an order. He had to stop Han Sen at all costs. If Han Sen made it past him, he would no longer have to show up for work. He would never serve as an Ice Blue Knight captain again. Thinking about having to take his fellow Ice Blue Knights to stop Han Sen, Ice Blue Night King felt like there was an icy fist tightening around his stomach. Ice Blue Night King had watched the live streams of Han Sen in the Tianxia system. The systems of chaos were dangerous, but it was much easier to use technology there than in the Tianxia system. Han Sen leveling up Lando to deified class surprised him. It was like a miracle performed by God. It was pretty hard to believe. The scariest thing was that he had seen Han Sen battling on video. He wasn't sure if he would be able to stop Han Sen, not even if he led the entire might of the Ice Blue Knights against him. He didn't think he had a snowflake's chance in hell. But an order was an order, and Ice Blue Night King had to follow through. If he didn't, no one would be able to save him. Using the news he received from the Extreme King and the knowledge he already had on the systems of chaos, Ice Blue Night King took his Ice Blue Knights to intercept Han Sen. It worked. The beaten-up white whale was easy to spot. When Han Sen saw Ice Blue Night King, he was surprised. He had intentionally avoided going close to the headquarters of the Ice Blue Knights, and still, he was intercepted. It seems that the Extreme King now know I am in the systems of chaos. I'm afraid people like Menglai will start showing up again soon, Han Sen thought to himself. Han Sen, if you stop and come with us to the Extreme King, things will still be all right, Ice Blue Knight said as he looked upon the battered white whale. He watched as the white whale opened its mouth and Han Sen emerged. Despite all his recent battles, Han Sen didn't look any worse for wear. His cheeks had a healthy flush, and all in all, he looked quite cheery. He even had a wretched smile that would make anyone want to punch him on sight. Ice Blue Night King, how are you doing, man? Han Sen smiled and greeted Ice Blue Night King. Ice Blue Night King gave Han Sen a strange look. He remembered the time when he had taken Han Sen away from Narrow Moon, and he could see how much he had changed since then. At that moment, Ice Blue Night King wished he had never seen Han Sen's face before. Come back to the Extreme King, or I will do you harm, Ice Blue Night King said in a hard voice. The cannons and weapons were all primed and ready to fire on Han Sen. The Knights of the Ice Blue Knights were ready. All that Ice Blue Night King had to do was give a single command, and those knights would unleash enough firepower to blow up a planet. But facing Han Sen, Ice Blue Night King didn't feel confident at all. So many deified beings had chased him, and yet, he had still gotten this far. He wouldn't be an easy enemy to bring down. Ice Blue Night King, I need 10 cubic meters of cloud crystal stone, and I need 3,000 gallons of V758 Geno fluid. Han Sen suddenly began listing out items that he wanted. The Ice Blue Knights were shocked. They didn't know what Han Sen meant. They were going to fight, so why was he making demands? He wants those items he just listed? Ice Blue Night King thought in confusion. This was ridiculous. What do you mean? Ice Blue Night King looked expressionlessly at Han Sen. It means hurry up and get me what I asked for. I will give you 3 hours, Han Sen said in annoyance. Ice Blue Night King and the other Ice Blue Knights thought this was ridiculous. Han Sen was wanted by the Extreme King, but now he was giving them a store list and a deadline. This was hilarious. Han Sen, have you gone insane, or am I going senile? We are the Ice Blue Knights. We are a powerful force that serves the Extreme King. The glorious name of the Ice Blue Knights is known far and wide and... Right. Save your breath and go get my things. You have 2 hours and 58 minutes. Han Sen interrupted Ice Blue Night King and clapped his hands. At that moment, Ice Blue Night King saw 2 other people emerge from the white whale. Both of them were king-class creatures, and between them, they were carrying a limp form. The person they were carrying looked really bad. He was beaten and swollen. His clothes were drenched in blood, and his bones were like mush. He couldn't stand by himself. 2 kings stood to his left and right, holding him upright. Ice Blue Night King recognized who it was, and his mouth went dry. He looked at Han Sen, then back at the other person with disbelief. Bai Wuchang, King Bai's favorite son. God, what did Han Sen do? Ice Blue Night King thought. His mind felt empty. Killing Prince 16 wasn't enough, it seemed. Han Sen had now taken King Bai's favorite son Bai Wuchang hostage. He had also beaten him to a pulp. Ice Blue Night King couldn't imagine that anyone but Han Sen was capable of such a thing. You have 2 hours and 55 minutes. If I don't get all the things I want on time, I will cut his head off. Han Sen grabbed Bai Wuchang's hair and looked at Ice Blue Knight, who was currently in a stupor. The Ice Blue Knights watched in impotent rage as the white whale flew away. Although there were countless weapons and cannons primed and ready to fire at it, no one dared to push the button on that damaged white whale. They only stared at the white whale as it left, until it departed their vision. Ice Blue Night King still looked conflicted. He felt helpless about it all, but he also felt rather happy. Although he would never say it out loud, the fact that Han Sen held Bai Wuchang as a hostage would mean that Ice Blue Night King's supervisors wouldn't require him to chase Han Sen down. They didn't want the Ice Blue Knights and Han Sen to fight after all, and that brought him some relief. Although he had never really fought against Han Sen, when Ice Blue Night King saw Han Sen this time, he felt a little unsettled. There was a mystique that surrounded Han Sen and his feats. Han Sen's power seemed unknowable, and that was scary. If he fought against Han Sen, Ice Blue Night King had the feeling he and his men would end up in a sorry state. Knife, you took a very scary student under your wing, Ice Blue Night King said with a sigh. Then, he commanded his men to keep an eye on Han Sen's flight path. Han Sen eyed the abundance of resources on his ship and felt better for them being there. They were the materials he would need to repair the white whale. Now that Han Sen had them in his possession, his escape effort might go a little smoother. Fang Qingyu and the pirates felt as if they were dreaming. They had been intercepted by the Extreme King's Ice Blue Knights, and they had emerged wholly unscathed. On top of that, they had been given a whale's worth of supplies. This is what we call real pirate booty. We robbed the Extreme King. We are more daring than the real pirates, the lowly pirates thought. They were starting to believe that following Han Sen wasn't such a bad idea, after all. But they knew that after Han Sen did this, the Extreme King would be left insulted and enraged. There was no way King Bai was going to let the remainder of their trip go unimpeded. Greater dangers certainly lay ahead. Han Sen shared some of the resources they had been given. They had been given food, so there was plenty for everyone to wine and dine. Han Sen wasn't terribly excited about the food he had stolen, but it was nice to satisfy the rest of the crew and give them all full bellies. And as for the materials they needed to fix up the white whale, Han Sen put the pirates to work inside the crystal reactor. After that, the white whale would finish the repairs itself. It just needed those materials necessary to do so. It hadn't self-repaired before this because its crystal reactor lacked the necessary fuel. Now that they had enough fuel, the white whale could get to work repairing itself. The broken parts started to pull back together, but a complete recovery was still a long while away. Captain, someone is following us from behind, said a pirate running toward Han Sen. Ignore them. Let us proceed, Han Sen said without much surprise. It would be weird if the Extreme King didn't order Ice Blue Night King to follow them. Han Sen didn't mind that kind of tale, though. When the white whale was wholly recovered, it would be as good as a deified. At that point, it wouldn't be difficult to get rid of the Ice Blue Knights if they tried something. This place is close to where Night River King was standing guard, Han Sen thought, looking around in curiosity. Han Sen was very interested in the diary kept by Night River King, but the last time he scoped the place out, he hadn't had much opportunity to look around. Now, his options for poking his nose where it didn't belong were vastly expanded. It would take a while for the white whale to be fixed, and during this time, he couldn't get rid of the tail that Ice Blue Night King had put on him. So, since he had the time, he might as well see if he could figure out what Night River King had been talking about in his diary. Ice Blue Night King thought that once Han Sen took the resources, he'd keep running away as fast and as far as he could. But of course, being Han Sen, he had instead decided to mosey around. Rather than focusing on escape, he actually went back to a location near where the Ice Blue Knights had been stationed. What is this *** hole trying to do now? Ice Blue Night King felt himself going a bit crazy. Taking Han Sen away from Narrow Moon was the worst thing he had done in his entire life. Han Sen didn't care what Ice Blue Night King thought, though. He drove the white whale into the border regions of the Ice Blue system, heading toward the planet where Night River King had once been stationed. As Han Sen arrived, he found that Ice Blue Night King had joined the men who were standing guard there. Han Sen, you still haven't left yet. What is it that you want? Ice Blue Night King looked at Han Sen, trying not to grind his teeth. If he was able to, he would have liked to kill Han Sen right then and there. Nothing. I'm just getting tired. I plan to rest here. You guys go ahead and do your thing. There's no need to escort me so diligently. I will rest on this planet for a little while before leaving, Han Sen said with a smile. Who would want to **King escort you? With Ice Blue Night King's personality, he couldn't help but swear in frustration. Although he was very mad, Bai Wuchang was still in Han Sen's hands. He couldn't do anything to Han Sen that might interfere with Bai Wuchang's safety. He commanded the Ice Blue Knights not to interfere with Han Sen, just in case Bai Wuchang suffered. Han Sen allowed the white whale to land on the planet Night River King used to guard. He looked around the nearby planets, but there was no sign of the beings described in Night River King's diary, and there was nothing about those numbers. According to what Night River King described, whatever it was had to be purple, and there should have been 40 of those things with numbers. Plus, they were all King class. They shouldn't have been difficult to find, whatever they were. If there were dozens of King class fiends here, Han Sen should have found them with ease. However, Han Sen failed to discover a single King class creature on that planet. There were only 2 Ice Blue Knights that were King class guarding the planet, but they had nothing to do with the numbers. There were no King class Xenogeneics there because the Ice Blue Knights had already cleared them out. Even if some creatures still survived here, they would be low level. King class beings were unlikely. Han Sen went to the specific part of the planet where Night River King would have worked, but there was nothing weird there for Han Sen to see. He was a little bit disappointed. He couldn't stay there for too long either. If someone like Minglai came for him, things would end poorly. If the weirdness that Night River King wrote about in his diary didn't happen near where he was stationed, then I have little hope of finding it. The planet is too big for me to search the entire thing in the next 1 or 2 days. As Han Sen wondered if he should just give up, Bauer ran up to him. She used her small fingers to prod Han Sen's sleeves. Bauer, what is it? Han Sen lowered his head to look at Bauer with confusion. Bauer hooked a finger, and Han Sen knew what she meant. He squatted down to look at Bauer. Bauer put her little mouth to Han Sen's ear and whispered, Daddy, there is a treasure. Excitement rose in Han Sen's chest, but he didn't show it. He quietly asked Bauer, Do you know where the treasure is? Bauer nodded, and this made Han Sen even happier. He picked up Bauer and walked out of the white whale. He spoke to one of the pirates, saying, You guys watch Bai Wuchang. I'm taking Bauer for a walk. The Ice Blue Knights watched Han Sen through a camera, their jaws clenched. He was like a thief who had run into their house and beaten up their son before proceeding to steal their possessions. After his crimes, instead of running away, he had gone into the backyard for a cup of tea. Wouldn't that make anyone mad? The worst part was that, in order to preserve Bai Wuchang's life, they had to refrain from doing anything to Han Senator. They had to watch him go for a nice walk on the planet. What is he trying to do? Ice Blue Night King looked at Han Senator. He couldn't tell what Han Sen's true purpose was in coming here. Considering the inherent danger in Han Sen's situation, they all thought it would be best if he left sooner rather than later. No matter how strong Han Sen was, he couldn't compete against deified elites. If the extreme king deifieds arrived, he would be in a lot of danger. But Han Sen wasn't running. He was just bumbling around. His actions made Ice Blue Night King and the other higher-ups very uncertain. They sent a video of Han Sen to the Extreme King. The Extreme King's deified elites were very confused about his purpose there, too. He didn't know why Han Sen was choosing to hang around this random planet. It was like he was just waiting there for them to grab him. A conspiracy. There must be some sort of conspiracy, Sixth Uncle said, gritting his teeth. They believed that Han Sen had some sort of plan that was about to be exposed, but they weren't sure what it was all about. Everyone thought hard about what was going on, trying to guess what Han Sen was trying to do. But there were too many possibilities. No option seemed more likely than any of the others. Let Fourth Uncle and the others go quickly to the systems of chaos. It doesn't matter what Han Sen is planning. It won't be a threat to them, King Bai said coldly. His favorite son had been taken by Han Sen, but he didn't appear too worried. He looked as if nothing had happened, and he was acting like his usual self. Father, I beg you to let me take some people to the systems of chaos. We need to capture Han Sen and save Bai Wuchang. The Crown Prince bowed and pleaded. He and Bai Wuchang came from the same mother, so he was closer to Bai Wuchang than he was to the other royal children. He didn't make the request to save Bai Wuchang because of the bloodline connection, though. As the son of the same mother, Bai Wuchang was extremely talented, and King Bai loved him. Plus, Bai Wuchang didn't want the throne. He had done a great deal to make his brother the crown prince. By pleading in this way, he would give King Bai the impression that he greatly loved his brother. And there was no reason for him not to go, anyway. King Bai still coldly responded, Our deal with the Mecca has reached a critical point. We still need you to follow up. Don't worry, Fourth Uncle can resolve this. And Miss Mirror is also on her way. Han Sen held Bauer as he continued walking across the planet. This planet wasn't an ideal place for creatures to live. Aside from the base, the rest of the environment was poor. Only a few xenogeneics could live in such conditions. That place was similar to a rocky moon. It was full of craters that were the result of many meteor strikes. Many of them were enormous geographical features, whereas others were as small as football fields. Asteroids near the planet were pulled down by the gravity of the planet. That was why there were always meteors striking the surface. But now that the Ice Blue Knights had taken over the planet, many of the larger meteors were eliminated before any harm was dealt. The craters around Han Sen had formed before the Ice Blue Knights took over the planet. Bauer secretly guided Han Senator. A short while later, Han Sen reached one of the smaller craters. Han Sen looked into the crater, and there was a broken rock at its center. The broken rock gleamed slightly in a metallic way. It wasn't purple like Han Sen had expected, which disappointed him a bit. But if Bauer said there was some treasure available, it had to be something good. Thinking of that improved his mood a little. Ice Blue Night King and the other knights watching the video feed saw Han Sen walk next to the rocks with much confusion. They were unsure what Han Sen was thinking. They kept guessing what Han Sen might be up to, trying to determine what he was planning. But still, they couldn't unravel whatever he had plotted. As they watched intently, Han Sen moved many rocks away. On the camera, they could see that there were many purple mushrooms beneath the rubble. Everyone was shocked. That planet wasn't suitable for any form of life, so neither creatures nor plants thrived there. Even ordinary xenogeneics had a hard time on such a planet. Only some xenogeneics adapted for outer space could live there for a while. But now, they were looking at a bunch of fist-sized purple mushrooms. It was a very rare sight. Han Sen, upon seeing the mushrooms, looked very happy. While the knights watching the video feed could only see the purple mushrooms, Han Sen could feel their life force. And he could tell that the purple mushrooms were almost as strong as king-class xenogeneics. Plant xenogeneics? Han Sen looked at the purple mushrooms. He counted there to be around 70 of them. Some of them were big, whereas others were small. But they all had king-class life forces. These mushrooms, they cannot be the numbers mentioned by Night River King, can they? Purple mushrooms. Is that what they were? No. Look at these numbers. They should be code for some creature. These cannot be the creatures that the code indicates. These mushrooms should be the items infected by the numbers. So, what is this? Han Sen looked at them. Aside from the purple mushrooms, there was nothing else around. They were always here. Where are they? Han Sen was remembering the contents of Night River King's diary, but the diary made no explicit mention of where they were exactly. Bauer looked at the mushrooms, and she seemed ready to start drooling. Daddy, can I eat them? Can you eat them? Han Sen reached out his hand and tried to pick up a mushroom. But before he could touch the mushroom, it moved. The umbrella-like cap of the mushroom greatly expanded and then grew smaller, blowing out a haze of purple mist. Han Sen instantly shielded Bauer and himself in jade skin godlight. He made a wall of ice to shield them from the purple mist that was emitted. The purple mist came into contact with the ice wall and corroded it. It happened so fast that the ice wall simply melted into that purple color. Han Sen's eyebrows rose. A very powerful toxic power. Ice Blue Night King and the Extreme King's sixth uncle, who were watching the video, were immediately given a shock. They couldn't tell exactly what the mushrooms were from the video, but now that they were seeing the mushrooms, they were stunned. They knew that these strange things had to be king-class plant xenogeneics. The mushrooms had a very strong toxic power. If they didn't, they wouldn't have corroded Han Sen's ice light. Bauer, do you really want to eat one of these? You must be joking. Han Sen looked at the poisonous purple mushrooms and spoke to Bauer. I'm not talking about the mushrooms. I was talking about that. Bauer pointed at something next to the purple mushrooms. Han Sen followed Bauer's instructions when she told him where to look. Amidst that clump of mushrooms was a small clump of grass that didn't look particularly outstanding. The grass was only 3 or 4 centimeters tall. It was very, very small, and it appeared rugged and yellow. It looked as if it had dried up and died. If Bauer hadn't pointed it out, Han Sen wouldn't have noticed it. You want to eat that grass? Han Sen looked at Bauer with shock, and he thought to himself, since when has Bauer changed her appetite? I thought she only ate sweets. Not the grass. There is something below it, Bauer said quietly. Below? Han Sen looked at the grass and instantly realized what she meant. The grass was probably similar to the greens of a carrot. The root of the plant was the useful part. Han Sen stopped hesitating and began using his ghost teeth knife to cut a path to the tiny patch of grass. He swung his knife and cut down some of the toxic purple mushrooms. King-class xenogeneic plants were nothing to Han Senator one life, one mushroom. He even cut down apart their roots. The toxic mushrooms released their toxic mist, but Han Sen used an icy light to block it. Although the king-class toxic mist was very strong, it couldn't harm Han Sen. Xenogeneic king hunted, toxic umbrella mushroom. Xenogeneic gene found. Han Sen was a little bit surprised. The purple mushrooms really were xenogeneics, and they were king-class as well. If Night River King's diary's coded creatures were toxic umbrella mushrooms, then that means something must have affected them. And that was why they became king-class. That might also mean they weren't originally king-class. But if this is so, what affected them? Could it be that wilted grass? Han Sen thought to himself. Xenogeneic king hunted, toxic umbrella mushroom. Xenogeneic gene found. Obtained toxic umbrella mushroom bee soul. Once Han Sen had killed 30 of the mushrooms, he earned a king-class bee soul. That was surprising. The mushrooms were king-class, and yet, they were unable to move. Their only talent was the ability to release toxic spores that were ineffective against someone like Han Sen. Han Sen quickly cleared the rest of them out and earned 2 toxic umbrella mushroom bee souls. That surprised Han Senator they were weapon bee souls. But right now, Han Sen didn't have time to stop and give them a closer look. Once all the mushrooms were gone, Han Sen used his knife to dig around the wilted grass. He wanted to see what lay below. Do you guys know what kind of plant that is? King Bai asked, looking at the extreme king elites around him. Everyone could tell that Han Sen's objective was to dig out something that lay below, but they all looked confused. None of them knew what the grass was. Even the xenogeneic mushrooms Han Sen had killed were unknown to them. They had no clue what they were. Many plants were oh so very weird, all across the Geno universe, so it wasn't strange that none of King Bai's attendants could identify the mushrooms. Even deified elites were unable to recognize all the plants that they encountered. But they were confused, too. They didn't know how Han Sen had known there were xenogeneic plants just lying around in that precise spot. As Han Sen kept slicing and dicing, digging through the ground, he saw something purple appear below. At first, he was unable to tell what it was. But after digging for a while longer, he was able to identify it. It was a big carrot. The skin was purple, and the root was 2 feet long. There was also a purple beard on it. Han Sen dug out the giant carrot and gave it to Bauer. He curiously asked, "Bauer, since when have you enjoyed eating carrots?" "Dad, even if we were at home, I'm pretty sure this thing would be called ginseng." Bauer held the big carrot as she spoke to Han Sen. "Ginseng?" Han Sen was shocked. That thing looked just like a carrot. How could ginseng be that large? And Han Sen remembered that ginseng looked yellowish. This thing was purple. It was a carrot, no matter what. Then treat it as a carrot. As Bauer fondled the massive ginseng, she looked very happy. She looked at Han Sen and said, "Daddy, keep digging. I am sure you can find something else in there." "There is something else?" Han Sen kept on digging. The cameras only had video. Ice Blue Night King and the others of the Extreme King were unable to hear what was being spoken. They watched as Han Sen dug up a big carrot and gave it to Bauer to hold. King Bai frowned. No one around him recognized what the big carrot was. There were too many similar plants in the universe. If they weren't famous, there wasn't much of a chance of people remembering them. The purple carrot was the same as the mushrooms, in that it wasn't famous at all. No one had heard of them before. Now, they were very curious about what Han Sen could dig out of the ground there. Han Sen didn't know what he was about to dig up either. He just used his ghost teeth knife to keep digging. It looked as if there wasn't too much to be found. He dug another meter into the ground, but there didn't appear to be anything down there below the earth. "Bauer, are you sure there's something down here?" Han Sen looked at Bauer with confusion. "There should be." Bauer was still holding the giant ginseng, sitting atop a rock. Han Sen kept on digging. He dug 3 meters into the ground before he felt the tip of his knife strike something. Because the hole was too deep, the camera's position wasn't right, and the Extreme King couldn't film whatever was inside the hole. Ice Blue Night King and the others of the Extreme King could only see Bauer. She was sitting atop the hole with a carrot in her hand, with rocks and soil being flung out of the hole, but they couldn't see what was going on inside the pit. If they were there, they could use many methods to see what was in the hole. But through video, no matter how smart they were, they couldn't tell what was going on below ground. Han Sen felt something down there. He dug faster as he grew more excited. It wasn't long before he revealed what was down there. Han Sen discovered that it was a shield. It looked like a tower shield. It was forged from purple metal, which was almost like some form of copper, but not quite. If he was honest with himself, he wasn't even sure if it was metal. The inside of the shield was facing up, so Han Sen could see the handle. The styling of it was so old, and there weren't even any insignias on it. Han Sen grabbed the handle of the shield and lifted it. Why is it so heavy? But then again, judging by the weight, it has to be something good. The shield was so heavy that Han Sen was having trouble holding it up. Still, he managed to get it out. Boom. He had only just lifted the shield when, before he could see what was on the front of the shield, a purple light burst from the shield like a volcano. The light flashed up into the sky. Han Sen was shocked. He raised his head and looked into the sky. In that purple light, there was a beautiful woman with a fantastic body and a snake tail. A beam of purple light burst into the sky, and the shape of a beautiful woman appeared within it. Her lower body was scaled and serpentine, and her black hair was a bunch of snakes as well. Her eyes were shut. She looked beautiful, elegant, cold, and creepy. When Ice Blue Night King and the Extreme King elites saw the snake-like woman in the beam of light and squinted to get a clearer look, they looked shocked. That Ghana's silhouette, it looked so familiar. Many of the Extreme King's deified elites had this sudden feeling. But before they could get a better look at the woman, the shape within that light was gone. It just vanished from sight. Han Sen's shield lost its light. Han Sen was confused, and so he flipped the shield over. He saw that the front of the shield was adorned with the image of the woman he had seen inside the beam of light. The image depicted a human body mixed with a snake. Her eyes were shut, and her black hair was dancing. It looked as beautiful as it did weird. This looks like a good item. It must be a deified xenogeneic treasure. Han Sen was so happy. He hurried to pull the shield out of the hole. After Han Sen pulled the shield up to ground level, many of the Extreme King elites saw the purple metal shield. Their eyes all opened wide, and they stared at it in disbelief. Uncle Six whispered hoarsely, "That is the Ghana's treasure, the shield of the Medusa's gaze. How is this possible?" The shield of the Medusa's gaze was destroyed in a battle between the gods. Why is it here? That white shadow, it was Medusa. Is the shield of the Medusa's gaze still here? Holy **T. Why is the shield of the Medusa's gaze still around? And it is in one of the places operated by the Extreme King. Hurry! We have to get the shield of the Medusa's gaze back. We have to take him back with us to the Extreme King, no matter what. The Extreme King's simmering tempers were going to boil over. How do we take it? Only the Ice Blue Knights are in the vicinity. There are no deified elites around. Do you really think they can stop Han Sen? Someone said. And then, all the Extreme King elites stopped talking. They looked at Han Sen's shield with intense expressions. There was no other way for them to do this. They had to watch Han Sen merrily take the shield of the Medusa's gaze back to the white whale. Hurry! Tell the fourth uncle and Miss Mirror to hurry. We have to reclaim that shield. This is bad. How did that thing end up in the Ice Blue system? It was in our territory for all this time, and no one was able to find it? What have those Ice Blue Knights been doing all this time? This important item was beneath their noses for all these years, and now it suddenly gets stolen? My king, I beg your permission to go to the systems of chaos. I will aid fourth uncle in killing Han Sen and claiming the shield. I am willing to go to the systems of chaos too. The systems of chaos were once a bad place that no one ever wished to go to, but now they were the place everyone wished to go to. Han Sen didn't know anything about the shield, but he was certain it was a powerful item. He put the toxic mushrooms away, picked up Bauer, and dragged the shield with him on the way back to the big white whale. Han Sen had received what he wanted, so there was no point in waiting around for anything awry to occur. Han Sen ran to the white whale as fast as he was able to. The pirates were sitting tight, guarding the white whale. The little red bird saw them coming, and so it flew over to escort their approach. It landed atop Bauer's shoulder, hoping to nibble her big piece of ginseng. "This is mine." Bauer hugged the ginseng tightly, keeping the little red bird from eating it. Han Sen didn't spare any time for the drama between those two, and so he activated his white whale. He left the Ice Blue systems and headed deeper into the systems of chaos. Han Sen set the shield aside. It was too heavy for him to hold easily. He had only gone a short distance with it, and he was gasping already. Upon seeing the shield that Han Sen had brought back, Fang Qingyu was curious. Han Sen had only just gone out for a bit, and yet he had returned with an enormous shield. When he looked at the shield more closely, though, he saw the image of a woman with half a human body and half a snake body. He gasped, "Medusa's gaze." "Brother Fang, you know this shield?" Han Sen asked, looking at Fang Qingyu. Is this real? Is this really the Medusa's gaze?" Fang Qingyu's voice trembled as he stared at the shield. "What about it is real or not? I just dug it up. I don't know. Do you know about this shield?" Han Sen asked again. Fang Qingyu definitely seemed to know something about it. Fang Qingyu's shaking hands reached out to touch the shield. What he said sounded like nonsense. "I don't know. No. I'm not sure if this is the Medusa's gaze. The legends say that it was destroyed. What is this Medusa's gaze?" Han Sen asked with confusion. Fang Qingyu looked at the shield with excitement. Time keeps changing. Elites live and elites die. The same can be said about treasures. Some break, whereas others are created. They might be famous eventually, but in one day, under the gushing flow of history's river, they can be washed away. Some, however, glow and shine like diamonds beneath the rushing water of that river. They become legends. People will remember such items forever. Back in the day, the Ghana Alpha used the shield of the Medusa's gaze and Purgatory Heaven. They were two deified treasures, and they made him invincible. With them, he lit up the Geno Hall's Geno Lantern, and it was through that act the Ghana became one of the higher races. At that time, the shield of the Medusa's gaze and purgatory heaven, the two deified xenogeneic treasures, became super famous. That was especially true of the Medusa's gaze. It can be considered one of the top 10 well-known deified items. The Ghana Alpha used the Medusa's gaze and purgatory heaven to assault the Geno Hall. After a few days of fighting, they were kicked out and made to fall. Then, Medusa's gaze and purgatory heaven were lost. As Fang Qingyu spoke, he stroked the shield at the same time. If this is really Medusa's gaze, it will be one pricey artifact. This shield alone could buy out a whole higher race. After all, this is a deified item that assaulted the Geno Hall. But the legends say the shield of the Medusa's gaze and purgatory heaven were destroyed. I don't know the truth to this tale. An elite that entered the Geno Hall? Han Sen was shocked. Even ancient water god, who was almighty and powerful, was unable to breach the gate of the Geno Hall. The Ghana, however, had assaulted the Geno Hall properly, and there they fought for a few days. That was a scary thought. Come take a look. Let us determine if this truly is the shield of the Medusa's gaze. Han Sen was so happy. If that was a deified weapon from a battle waged between gods, it would be something truly amazing. Han Sen already had purgatory heaven. If that was the shield of the Medusa's gaze, perhaps he would be able to learn much from the Ghana Alpha. He might even be able to use the two deified weapons to assault the Geno Hall himself. I don't know. I have only heard about it. If this really is the shield of the Medusa's gaze, then her eyes ought to be able to open. The legends say that if she opens her eyes, even a god would cry. But it has been too long. Many people have heard the legend, but anyone who might have looked on the shield of the Medusa's gaze is probably dead by now. Only an immortal could confirm the validity of this thing. Even in the Thousand Treasures Alliance, I am afraid only a few elders might be able to confirm its identity, Fang Qingyu said. Han Sen frowned. If this was the shield of the Medusa's gaze, the Extreme King must have seen him retrieve it. Bauer, come up and pilot the ship. Speed up and let's get moving. Han Sen turned the helm over to Bauer and carried the shield to his room. He wanted to find out if the shield was useful. It didn't matter if it was the shield of the Medusa's gaze or not. If he couldn't use it, then it was rubbish. Han Sen gripped the shield in his hands and put his jade power into it. Or at least, he tried to. The power bounced away. He was unable to place Jadeskin's power into the shield. Han Sen frowned. Next, he used the power of the Dongxian Sutra, and he tried to put that into the shield. This time the power didn't bounce away. After the power of the Dongxian Sutra entered the shield, the carving of the beautiful woman started to glow with a purple light. Light began to glow within her flickering eyes, and it appeared as if they were going to open. But Han Sen's eyes widened. The shield was like a bottomless hole, and it consumed his power ravenously. In just a second, Han Sen's face was ghostly pale. His life force had been drained, but the woman inside the shield still had her eyes closed. There was still some purple light around her face, but it didn't look as if the eyes were going to open. Han Sen quickly pushed the shield away. If this kept going, he'd be nothing but a dried-up husk. After Han Sen got rid of the shield, the light on the shield disappeared. It went back to looking old and slightly battered. It no longer showed any sign of activity. Even if this isn't the shield of the Medusa's gaze, it's still an awesome treasure. Even with my power, I cannot activate it. Han Sen was quite pleased with his find. He believed the shield had to be the shield of the Medusa's gaze. But Han Sen was still a bit miffed about being unable to make use of it. He was too weak, and he knew he would have to try it while wearing the Peacock King Soul robe. Han Sen wasn't in the mood to try it at that moment, though. The legendary shield of the Medusa's gaze was too scary, and Han Sen knew he couldn't control its power properly. He was afraid that if he activated the shield, its power would destroy everything. Han Sen tried putting the shield of the Medusa's gaze into Destiny's Tower. The shield of the Medusa's gaze was very heavy, but he managed to stick it into the tower without much difficulty. That would save him a lot of trouble. Fang Qingyu was still wondering if it was truly the shield of the Medusa's gaze. Han Sen wasn't really concerned about that. It would be a powerful item, as long as he was able to use it. The white whale was still undergoing repairs, so it wasn't moving very fast. The ice blue knights continued to tail the whale, and the whale could do nothing to shake them. Ice Blue Night King was in the ship that was following them. He stared at the white whale nonstop, every day. There were no words to describe how conflicted Ice Blue Night King's heart felt right then. Han Sen had killed a prince and captured King Bai's favorite son, but none of that impacted Ice Blue Night King personally. Han Sen had suddenly dug up the shield of the Medusa's gaze from a place belonging to the Ice Blue Knights, though Ice Blue Night King was unsure how he should be reacting to all this. What he knew was that he wished he had never met the guy. Han Sen was like some demonic force hanging over his life. If God gave him another chance, Ice Blue Night King would kill him back when he was still inside his mother's belly. That way, Han Sen would never have been able to harm others. The shield of the Medusa's gaze. The shield of the Medusa's gaze was hidden beneath my nose for years. And every time Ice Blue Night King thought of this, his heart bled. "Captain, something has happened inside the white whale," a knight loudly shouted. Ice Blue Night King looked at the white whale through the video feed. He saw that the white whale looked a bit different. It was no longer a half-broken mess. Now its hull was sleek and smooth, like a living creature. Right now, the white whale was glowing with a strange white light. He could see there were some waves around the white whale. Before Ice Blue Night King could react, the white whale swung its tail. It was like a fish swimming in the sea very quickly. It disappeared in a blink, and only the shock waves of its wake remained. The stalking Ice Blue Knights stared after it in shock. By the time they could react, the white whale was gone. "Captain, what do we do? Should we give chase?" The commander looked at Ice Blue Night King, who was still staring out into space. "Go after it," Ice Blue Night King said, gritting his teeth. "How do we pursue it?" The commander asked, looking uncertain. "Go forward," Ice Blue Night King commanded glumly. The recovery of the white whale had finished, so it could now go at full speed. There were still some parts of it that required fixing, but Han Sen couldn't wait any longer. Han Sen didn't know when Ming Lai and the others might reach him, but the further away from the hounds they got, the safer they were bound to be. Once they entered the deeper recesses of the systems of chaos, not even the extreme king could control the situation. Even if Ming Lai was there, seeking Han Sen out wouldn't be easy. In the systems of chaos, large groups of xenogeneics often traveled together, and there was a wide variety of sorts. Fortunately, Han Sen's group had the white whale. Normal space xenogeneics were unable to breach the hull of the white whale, and the ship's speed made it easy for Han Sen to slip past them. When they encountered small xenogeneics, Han Sen would slow the white whale so he could kill the space xenogeneics and earn xenogeneic genes. The pirates were able to kill many xenogeneics, too. They were all so happy about it. With the big white whale backing them up, they didn't have to be afraid of being surrounded. They were all able to kill so merrily. Han Sen didn't want to kill marquises and dukes anymore, though. If the pirates killed those, they could keep them. All he wanted were king-class xenogeneics. If they met a large horde of space xenogeneics, Han Sen would have to retreat. There were galactic shrimps out there, in shoals of billions. Encountering groups of that size would be extremely dangerous. Black hole spider. The white whale moved into a system, and a giant spider attached to a planet suddenly came into view. It was like the whole system had been webbed by the giant creature. Han Sen slowed the white whale down to keep from disturbing the spider. That scary deified creature was something that not even a normal deified elite would be willing to disturb. Han Sen did not want to touch it either. He wanted to steer clear. As the white whale was about to leave the system occupied by the black hole spider, Han Sen suddenly saw the claws of the arachnid move. The creature turned its head to look at the white whale. The black hole-like eyeballs turned to stare at them. This was bad. Han Sen shoved the white whale to full acceleration so they could get out of the black hole spider's territory. The white whale's engine labored so hard that it released enormous clouds of smoke, but the white whale didn't go forward. It seemed to be being pulled back. Han Sen looked behind them, and he saw the black hole spider spreading its jaws. Its open mouth was like a giant black hole. It formed a vortex in space that sucked the white whale toward its gaping maw. "We are going to die. Who is going to save me? I don't want to die. I'm a virgin. I still haven't gotten married." Ningyu sat on the floor, holding Bauer and sobbing. All the pirates were in shock. They had heard about the black hole spider before. Even in the wild systems of chaos, the black hole spider was the top of the food chain. Han Sen pushed the white whale to the max, but the white whale was only being pulled back faster. The hull ground against the fabric of space as it was pulled backward, spawning a flurry of sparks. Pang! An unexpected asteroid suddenly slammed into the side of the white whale. The white whale began to spin. Before Han Sen had time to think, the white whale fell completely into the grip of that black hole. It spun faster and faster inside the black hole, and other small objects slammed into the white whale. Each strike made a horrible sound. The pirates rolled across the floor like a bunch of gourds. "I don't want to die." Ningyu was screaming with every breath. Han Sen moved fast. He shifted his feet as the white whale rolled around. He kept himself balanced, using the Peacock King's soul robe. He was going to release a power of his own to get them out of that space vortex. Bauer was jumping nimbly around the command deck, still holding onto her big purple ginseng. That kind of shaking was unable to affect her balance. Little Redbird stood on her shoulder. It kept looking around. Pang! Seconds later, the white whale fell out of the space vortex. It landed on a black sea, and the big sea was in massive turmoil. What is this place? Why is there a sea? Han Sen wondered. He kept looking around. That black sea was so big that it looked endless. Mist rose in all directions, so he couldn't see very far. Badong! Badong! Other things kept raining into that same sea. There were asteroids, plants, the wreckage of ships, and even some xenogeneics. While Han Sen looked around in frozen silence, a planet even came down. It fell into the Black Sea, and the waves that rolled out from the impact sent the white whale flying. It kept rocked violently across the big waves, and it was some time before the ship stopped flipping. Then, Han Sen saw something even scarier. As all of these objects fell into the black water, they started to melt. Are we inside the black hole spider's stomach? Han Sen was looking at the mountain-like asteroids that appeared to be melting as he pondered the idea. Oh no, we are done for. We are being digested to become poo-poo. I don't want to become poo-poo. Ningyu sat on the floor, crying. Don't worry. Our ship isn't being corroded. Han Sen observed the white whale's hull. The ship was like a deified creature itself, and so it wasn't dissolving under the corrosive power of the black water. But Han Sen didn't know how long the white whale would last, so he also knew he had to get out of there as fast as he could. But that black hole spider was too big. It had captured the white whale merely by inhaling. Compared to the black hole spider's size, the white whale was a tiny shred of meat. Han Sen then realized that the black hole spider hadn't actually been attacking them. They had simply picked a terrible time to try to travel through the system. They had encountered the black hole spider just as it decided to eat lunch. Based on what they could see through the mist, they knew that the spider had ingested countless asteroids and more than a few entire planets. Han Sen regained control of the white whale and guided it up and out of the big black sea. That dark water was probably the stomach juices of the black hole spider. Han Sen drove the white whale, all the while dodging the falling asteroids. He wanted to get as high as possible. If this was the black hole spider's stomach, he should have been able to get out via its esophagus. After traveling through the mist for God knew how long, he was unable to see any more asteroids falling. But he still couldn't find the esophagus. Is this really the black hole spider's stomach? It's too big. Are we in another dimension, perhaps? Han Sen looked weirded out as he spoke to himself. We are dead. Ningyu cried. Fang Qingyu had a wry smile, and he said, if I have guessed things right, we are in the black hole spider's body, and this is its stomach, or at least an organ that is similar to a stomach. The black hole spider has space powers. It is deified, and its space powers extend through its body as well. If we want to get out of here, we have to figure out the space powers locking this place down. If we don't, we aren't going to find a way out. How do we break the space powers here? Han Sen asked as he glanced at Fang Qingyu. Fang Qingyu smiled wryly again, and he said, the only information I have on the black hole spider is what I've seen in the Thousand Treasures Alliance's database. I can try to guess what we are going up against, but I won't be able to break whatever it is. I hope the white whale can last a while. Otherwise, we will all be digested very soon. Han Sen didn't say anything. He peered into the mist with his purple-eye butterfly, and he noticed that the mist was made of substance chains formed of a space substance. The power of those substance chains was twisting space into a closed loop with the creature's stomach. He would be unable to fly out through ordinary means. But he had to try, even if it didn't work. None of them knew if the white whale could withstand the corrosive juices and mist for long. If they couldn't get out, they were dead. Han Sen didn't turn on the white whale's weapon systems because using those weapon systems would pull valuable power away from the energy reactor. The white whale didn't have an infinite amount of energy available for use at all times. If he used all the available energy, he would be unable to fly. "Little Red," Han Sen said to the little red bird. The little red bird seemed to know what Han Sen wanted. It screamed and flew off of Bauer's shoulder. It became a fire phoenix and flew out of the white whale. It spat fire at the mist. The red flames turned the space substances and substance chains into dust. But when the space substance chains broke, faults opened in space. It made reality very unstable around them. The little red bird almost fell into the cracks, so he came back. "So this is a space element deified xenogeneic." Han Sen looked gloomy. Space deified xenogeneics were scarier than he had believed. For more than 100 hours, Han Sen flew the white whale forward across an endless sea cloaked in mist. Still, he couldn't find an escape route. The space powers within the creature's stomach were layered like a giant space maze. Through various space folds and faults, they couldn't find a way out. The scariest thing was that the cracks in space could do serious damage to the hull of the white whale, leaving large scratches across it despite its incredible resilience. Fortunately, Han Sen had his Dongxian area and the purple-eye butterfly. He was able to avoid the space cracks. If he hadn't been able to, the white whale would have been torn apart, and they all would have died in short order. Even so, Han Sen still had to face the crisis that had literally swallowed them. The silver lining in all this, however, was the fact that the white whale was repairing itself more quickly than the corrosion was eating it away. Still, the ship's recovery processes cost material and energy. If the energy was depleted, then death was the only thing that awaited them. The ship and its crew were depressed. The uncertain fate left everyone feeling nervous. Aside from Bauer, who was trying her best to make Ningyu happy, none of the others could raise a smile. Han Sen was under a lot of pressure to resolve this. He wasn't worried about his safety, as he could always hop back to the sanctuaries. But if he did that, Ningyu and Fong Qingyu would be left to die. "Brother Fong, can you call the treasure identifier elder? Can you see if he can help us?" Han Sen asked Fong Qingyu hopefully. Fong Qingyu pulled out his Wanjie Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube squares were all gray and lifeless. It wasn't picking up any signals. "I tried already. The Wanjie Rubik's Cube can't function in this place." The Wanjie Rubik's Cube is a space treasure, but the black hole spider is also a space xenogeneic. Their powers affect each other. Fong Qingyu smiled ruefully. Han Sen didn't say anything. He continued to guide the white whale forward. There was nothing he could do right now, so he would just have to wait and see what happened next. The pirates seemed to be in shock. If it wasn't for Han Sen, whose lofty power they held in the highest esteem, they would have already had complete mental breakdowns. Without him, God knew what they would have done. Ningyu didn't require pressure to break. If Bauer even teased her, that would get the waterworks flowing. She'd sob like a madwoman, but in the eyes of the pirates, she was something else entirely. They had watched Ningyu become a man and kill someone terrifying. Ningyu might be a vulnerable person that they could push around right now, but no one dared to do it. They didn't want to incite that slumbering wrath. No one spoke, but all of a sudden, Han Sen saw a black shadow in the mist. He couldn't see what it was, but it seemed to be something very large on the Black Sea. Han Sen frowned, but he drove the white whale toward it. Nothing could be worse than what they were currently going through. This might have been a worthwhile opportunity. "What is this?" When the white whale drew closer to the shadow, some of the other crew members finally noticed it. "Land! There is land." When they were finally able to see what it was, they laughed in delighted relief. An unbelievable scene appeared from the Black Sea. There was a large stretch of dark red land before them. Han Sen could see the crimson sea stacks and reefs surrounding it. Even from afar, Han Sen could see some weird plants decorating the place. These plants were the normal trees or grass or vines that one might expect to find on an island. Instead, they were some mushrooms in many different shapes and sizes. The big mushrooms were like Ferris wheels. Others were the size of a room. A few were as small as beans. The place was colorful, and they all looked very lovely. Plus, many of the mushrooms glowed. They lit up the black mist and sea. Han Sen and the others looked at that mushroom land as if they were staring at a fairy tale come to life. They looked very surprised. If there is land, does that mean we aren't inside the stomach of the black hole spider? Ningyu looked at the mushroom land, and happiness returned to drive away her tears. Han Sen wasn't quite as cheery, though. He had seen many xenogeneic bodies that featured landmasses and palaces. The black hole spider was so huge, having a landmass inside it was not too surprising. No matter what, if that land had plants, then it was suitable for life. Plus, the mist didn't seem to obscure the mushroom land. That would at least keep the white whale's hull from being further corroded. This was a good thing. As he flew the white whale to the land of mushrooms, Han Sen wasn't in a hurry to land. First, he flew around the mushroom landmass. As he circled it, his eyebrows furrowed. The land of mushrooms was very pretty, and the mushrooms covered it in rainbows and splashes of color. But aside from the mushrooms, there was nothing else around. There weren't any xenogeneics, and there weren't any other types of plants. There were only mushrooms. From Han Sen's prior experiences, the prettier a mushroom was, the more poisonous it was. Those mushrooms were extraordinarily pretty, so he imagined they were also extremely deadly. What is that? Fang Qingyu asked, pointing at the forest of mushrooms. Han Sen looked to where he was pointing, and he saw that inside the mushroom forest was a stone mountain. The stone mountain was very circular, and it was shaped something like a bun. Next to the small mountain, a small ship was parked. It looked old and broken, so there was no way of knowing who it belonged to. "Creatures are living here," the pirate said excitedly. Han Sen drove the white whale closer to the downed battleship. Before they got any nearer, though, a door opened and a creature climbed out. When Han Sen saw the creature, he felt his eyes open wide. He had seen many strange people in his time, but that creature that had just come out of the ship looked odd, even to him. The creature was snow white, and its body was 2 meters tall. It was like an angry tiger, but there was a little pink mushroom glowing on its head. It made the tiger's angry face look rather cute. What a cute little tiger! Ningyu looked at the tiger and clutched her chest. Her eyes were full of stars. The white tiger with the little pink mushroom on its head looked at the white whale in the sky. It opened its mouth, walked around, and then let loose a loud meow. Han Sen and the others all swapped glances. Ningyu, in particular, looked as if she was melting. She looked at the white tiger through the white whale's screen and passionately said, "It's so cute." Boom. Before anyone could say anything more, the white tiger jumped, landing on the white whale's back. The white whale suddenly lurched. An enormous dent formed in the spine of the white whale, and it was pushed down into the canopy of mushrooms. The white whale came down into the mushroom forest, and its crash landing sent many mushrooms flying. It finally slid to a stop when it came up against a line of mushrooms that were a few dozen meters tall. But the mushrooms they did break, releasing a rainbow-colored mist. When Han Sen and the others looked closer, they could see a nearly infinite abundance of rainbow-colored spores forming the foggy veil. The little red bird was angered. It flew straight out of the white whale's mouth and flared into its fire phoenix form. Its scary phoenix fire immediately turned the area into a burning hellscape. Many of the mushroom spores were burned to ash, and the white tiger that had assaulted them was surrounded in flames. The white tiger jumped to escape the blazing inferno. It hovered in the air, opened its mouth, and fired cannonballs at the red phoenix. As the cannonballs approached, Han Sen could see that they were actually mushrooms. The red phoenix opened its mouth and released another torrent of fire, which easily incinerated the incoming mushrooms. They combusted and exploded, and streams of spores erupted from them like fountains. The explosions were beautiful, but within a second, the phoenix had reduced the mushrooms and their spores to dust. The white tiger fired out many more mushrooms. Each of them was turned to ash by the little red bird. The white tiger started to look afraid of the little red bird's fire, and it started to believe it had incurred some fairly bad luck. The little red bird gave chase to the now fleeing felon. "Bird brother, go get him. Bird brother is strong." The pirates could see that the little red bird had gained an advantage. They were so happy for the little red bird. They all cheered loudly and gave the bird their support. Some of the white tiger's fur was singed by the little red bird's fire. It kept meowing pitifully as it fled. Its white fur started to turn black in the heat, and it suddenly lowered its head toward the ground. Like a drill, it dug into the ground and disappeared someplace below. The little red bird flew around the area, but it was unable to see the white tiger anymore. So, it flew back in a much happier mood. The pirates quickly opened the door and welcomed the little red bird back inside. "Brother Bird is so powerful. Brother Bird is like the best bird ever." That crappy tiger said itself when Brother Bird went out to greet it. The pirates said, trying to ingratiate themselves with the little bird. The little red bird puffed up its chest to look big and cocky, like the big brother it was being revered as. It seemed as if the praise of the pirates had gone to the creature's head. Upon seeing it, Han Sen shook his head. Even a bird can't ignore sweet talk. The little red bird was once an innocent little thing, but now it has fallen. The little red bird had been a nightmare for the white tiger. The crew needed the bird's protection, so no one dared to offend him. But when the bird flew back to Bower, it made sure to look polite. It didn't dare to act cocky around her. Han Sen looked around. Aside from the white tiger, there were no other xenogeneics in the vicinity. The white tiger had been suppressed by the little red bird. So, for the time being, they were safe there. If the white tiger had survived on the island, then they should be able to survive there as well. They would figure out how to escape later. Fong Qingyu and Ningyu felt relieved. This place was strange, but it was better than the Black Sea. At least they weren't in any immediate risk of death. "I wonder if those mushrooms can be eaten. They do look delicious. The better looking they are, the more poisonous they are. But we are high-class pirates. Why would we be afraid of poison?" The pirates talked amongst themselves, but suddenly, one of them screamed. He sounded so scared, and he said, Mushroom? What is so shocking about mushrooms? They are everywhere." Another pirate laughed, but everyone still looked at the pirate that had just screamed. That pirate looked very shocked. His fingers shook as he pointed, and in a trembling voice, he said, There's a mushroom on your head. Whose leg are you trying to pull here? Why would my head have a mushroom on it?" The pirate didn't believe the claim, but when he touched his head to be sure, his face changed. Han Sen and the others all looked at the pirate. His head had a mushroom. It was a white mushroom that looked like an egg. My head has a mushroom." That pirate touched his mushroom and screamed. "What are you afraid of? Maybe Brother Bird accidentally dropped it onto your head." The ex-captain pirate shouted at the distressed pirate. He reached his hand out to pull and tug at the pirate's mushroom. "Ah, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts." The pirate screamed in pain. The other pirate pulled harder at the mushroom, lifting the man's entire body, but the mushroom didn't come off. The white mushroom on his head seemed to be attached to his scalp. Han Sen frowned. He looked at everyone's head, and he was given a fright. Your head has a mushroom, too, and you, as well, Ark." Everyone's head now had their own mushroom. The sizes and colors of each were all different. Suddenly, aside from Bower and the little red bird, everyone's head had a mushroom. Han Sen used his Dongxian area to look at the mushroom on his head. It was the size of a fist, and it was pitch black. It was like a little umbrella. The mushroom cap was quite large, but the stalk was very thin. The scariest thing about it was that the roots of the mushroom were inside his head. They were like vines, tangling around his brain. Han Sen looked at Ningyu and Fong Qingyu. They both looked the same. Ningyu's head had a fat, pink and white-capped mushroom. Fong Qingyu's head had a rainbow polka-dot mushroom. The pirates all had different mushrooms, too. But when Han Sen looked at them all with his Dongxian area, the mushrooms were attached to all of their brains. "Arg, what the hell are these mushrooms?" A pirate tried cutting off his mushroom with a knife. He barely managed to pierce the skin of the mushroom, and even that was so painful that it had him rolling around on the floor. I don't want to be a mushroom man. Ningyu looked into a mirror. Seeing she had a mushroom, she couldn't help but weep. Bauer tried to bring her comfort by saying, "Little Miss Ningyu, your mushroom looks quite nice. You could join a mushroom beauty contest for sure." "I don't want to be a mushroom man. I don't want to join mushroom competitions," Ningyu cried. Han Sen tried to pull his mushroom, and when he did, his expression changed. When the mushroom was moved, it was like he was tugging his brain. His will was strong, but it still felt incredibly painful. He almost screamed and his face turned all pale. "Brother Fong, do you know what this is?" Han Sen asked Fong Qingyu. Fong Qingyu's face turned white. He tried pulling his own mushroom, but he looked bitter. He shook his head and said, "I honestly don't know what this is. I've never seen anything like this before. There are many xenogeneic parasite mushrooms in this world, but their spores are always breathed into the lungs to enact their parasitic mischief. I've never heard of mushrooms attaching themselves to people's heads." Han Sen and the others all had weird mushrooms on their heads. The saprotrophic had assimilated to become parts of their bodies. If the mushrooms were damaged, their brains would be injured as well. They had no idea what to do. No one was able to think of a way to get rid of the mushrooms on their heads. They all looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Fortunately, other than the mushrooms that sprouted on their heads, nothing else happened. Why did no mushrooms grow on Little Captain and the Little Red Bird? Have they employed some sort of secret technique? The pirates looked hopefully at Bauer and the Little Red Bird. "Their bodies are special," Han Sen said simply. "They cannot be hosts to a parasite. They are not like us." All hope vanished when Han Sen said that, and the pirates looked very sad. They kept looking at the mushrooms on their heads and sighed with dismay. Meow. As everyone was wallowing in their depression, they heard a familiar sound from somewhere else on the island. Far away, from deep within the mushroom forest, the white tiger looked at them with a rather cocky expression. Its face was surprisingly human, and it was cackling like an evil maniac. Its teeth were bared in a rictus grin, and it was laughing so hard that it seemed like it was about to cry. Han Sen had never seen a tiger laugh in such an ugly manner before. If the tiger knew about the mushrooms on their heads, then it must have been responsible in some way. The Little Red Bird flew angrily toward the tiger again. But when the Little Red Bird approached, the white tiger drilled back underground and fled. The Little Red Bird's phoenix fire couldn't damage the ground. No one knew what that ground was made of. Han Sen called the Little Red Bird to return. They looked at the strange rocks all around them. The stone that made up the island was metallic, but also like jade. No one could tell what sort of material the rocks were composed of. "You guys go and collect some mushrooms. Let's see if we can eat them," Han Sen said to the pirates. "Captain, there are already mushrooms on our heads. If we eat more, might they start growing all over our bodies?" One of the pirates pleaded through tears. "Stop talking crap and just go." Han Sen glared at them moodily. The pirates shifted from foot to foot unwillingly. They were afraid that if they went out, their bodies might become the hosts of even more mushrooms. And they were also afraid that the white tiger might show up and kill them. They walked half a step away, and that was it. They didn't dare leave the safety of the white whale. The Little Red Bird spat some fire behind them, and they all jumped out of the white whale in sudden fear. The pirates trembled with fear as they walked through the undergrowth of the mushroom realm. They didn't walk too far, though. They collected a few mushrooms, and Han Sen asked the cook to fry them up. After the mushrooms were cooked, the pirates didn't dare eat them. They looked down at the fried mushrooms in their bowls, then they all just looked at each other. None of them dared to take the plunge. "Why are you all frozen? Hurry up and eat." Han Sen smiled at the pirates. "Captain, we aren't hungry. We really aren't hungry." Inside, the pirates were thinking to themselves, "Why aren't you eating, huh? We don't know how long we're going to be stuck here. With our food reserves, we might not last very long. From now on, you guys are going to have to eat these mushrooms to survive. Even if you don't eat them today, there will come a time when you'll be forced to eat them or starve. But don't worry, these are just ordinary mushrooms. They won't kill you."
Han Sen left.
Han Sen expected that they wouldn't be leaving that zone anytime soon. "Captain, We aren't hungry just yet. Can we eat them when we grow hungry later? A pirate asked quietly. What do you think? Han Sen smiled at the man. The pirates understood that they had no choice in the matter. Something might happen after they ate the mushrooms, though. Getting hurt or dying was only one possibility, but it was a strong possibility. And if they didn't eat the mushrooms now, Han Sen would likely deal with them personally. The pirates gritted their teeth and picked up the mushroom slices. Trying to summon their bravery, they closed their eyes and put the mushrooms in their mouths. In the beginning, they looked glum, but after chewing for a bit, they opened their eyes excitedly. Captain, this is so good. They are actually very fresh. A short while later, one of the pirates exclaimed his delight. Nothing bad happened after they ate the mushrooms either. No more mushrooms sprouted upon their bodies. There was just that one mushroom still attached to each of their heads. Slow down. Don't eat so quickly. I'm afraid you will be eating these mushrooms for a long time to come, Han Sen said sternly. He already knew the mushrooms weren't poisonous. If he hadn't been certain that the mushrooms were harmless, he wouldn't have permitted the pirates to eat them. The mushrooms on their heads hadn't appeared because of the mushrooms on the ground. They had come from the mushrooms that the white tiger had spat out. The spores inside of those mushroom attacks were the reason why Han Sen's crew had developed the mushrooms. It was obviously the white tiger's power, although Han Sen wasn't sure what eventual effects the mushrooms on their heads might have. The white tiger kept appearing now and again. It would growl at Han Sen to try to provoke him. It was probably afraid of the little red bird because it didn't come near the white whale. Han Sen left the white whale and went to the broken ship that the white tiger had exited from. That battleship was very old, and the interior was very rusted. The things that were made of wood were all covered in mushrooms. Nothing else was alive on the ship. Han Sen discovered torn bits of clothing of some kind, and the battleship was broken pretty badly. Judging from the damage, it might very well have been the white tiger's work. Han Sen went to the battleship's command deck. Fortunately, the black box wasn't completely destroyed. He brought it back to the white whale with him and tried to replay the video content. It did not take long for Han Sen to be disappointed. Although the discs looked fine, they must have been electrified at some point. Or maybe they just sat in that ship too long to be functional. None of the discs would play, and the white whale couldn't repair them. Han Sen tried every single disc, but not a single one would work. Han Sen had also found a very old communicator. He pulled out the memory card, and luckily, the white whale was able to read it. Han Sen was quite happy about this. He looked at the screen on the white whale and noticed that the card possessed 37 video files. There was nothing else. The video files were labeled from 1 to 37. Those files were all connected and sequential. There were no spaces or missing files. So, Han Sen opened the first video file. He watched it alone in his room. Whether the content was good or bad, but he didn't want the others to know he had found these yet.
Mimi, come tu mamma.
As soon as Han Sen started the video, he heard a woman's voice. In the video, a white kitten was walking on shaky legs. Based on how unsteady it was, Han Sen assumed that it was a newborn. And the location in the video was the old ship's command deck. Clearly, the woman was the one holding the recorder to film the white cat. Upon hearing the woman's voice, Han Sen noticed how familiar it was. He had heard that voice somewhere.